energy. So I think we have partnered with Ministry of Villages and also Open Government Indonesia to scale this model. And the discussion that I would like to push here is how sustainable lens is only from the environment side of it, but also the sustainability of the program, right? So programs like solar water pumping systems not only last in pictures, like water not only lasts in pictures, but also can last through generations, the impact. So through this platform, I think we can, bring these discussions and insights to the global network here and also to the national level. So I think the grassroots organization like ours can have insights on this.
Thank you, Mustika. And I think that's a very important point on this dialogue cannot just be for one part of the community, right? I think this needs to be inclusive. We need to hear as well initiatives on the ground because climate at the end of the day happens on the ground. So, and thank you for sharing that. So, Pak Edo, you're the last. I would like to challenge you a bit because I think you have heard from these different perspectives, right? And you are also involved across sectors as well, right? What would be your challenge to ISF for the next year? What do you think ISF should raise more in the coming years?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nick. I think I can attest that actually this is my third ISF. Yeah? So I think as one of the, I think, beneficiaries of, I think, the effectiveness of ISF as a convening platform, as this is my third year, so I have witnessed how ISF has grown. From the first ISF, it wasn't here. And the second, now the third. I don't know next year. But one thing that I think it's really my view, yeah, we have as the building blocks, of course, in terms of the administrative of the event, is impeccable. Look at this very beautiful setup, discipline organization, I think, and the themes, the thematics, the thought leadership, discussions, collaboration that have been produced and discussed, deliberated, debated here, and not only resulted in just like talks, but also lots of partnerships, collaborations, and plans going forward. I think that's number one. And number two, my participation has also grown from time to time. Now this year, Pak Rahmat, we have a booth. So Ministry of Forestry has a booth next door where we showcase also the products coming from the social forestry. And we also signed MOU. It's not only business deals, that has to happen, but also one thing that I think we can also leverage forums such as ISF is, I would say, more like in the capacity building, technical and non-technical development, how we can build the ecosystem. Because definitely the government cannot do this alone. This is a very difficult task to bear by anyone. So we have to do it together. And for like the government side, like line ministries, like Ministry of Forestry, we really capitalize this event to basically not only inform what we have achieved, but also received inputs, feedbacks, especially explore partnership collaborations going forward so that we can create the ecosystem that everyone can thrive on that. And based on that, I think ISF in Indonesia is perfect to be the flagship of the sustainability forum of the world. It's not only for Indonesia. Indonesia delivers this to the world. It's very simple. We see the impeccable organization. We see the topics, the thematics, and Indonesia has always been the what's it called Jamrut Katulistiwa, the emerald of the equator. So this is the center of the action, the fight against climate crisis. This is the battle war. Indonesia is at the forefront. Forestry, yes, absolutely. The maritime, the industry, because Indonesia is a G20 country. We are developing, we are growing. Our president has a huge aspiration, 8% growth. We know that we can do it, but we want to do it right. And this ISF forum should be the convening platform where not only showcasing discussions, policies, but also businesses, and also at the, with the civil society, hopefully academia. So going forward, this is my suggestion to my brother, Pak Rahmat. Next year, let's go back what we had this year, 12 months from now, where we will be by then. Are we moving forward? Or are we just standing still and not going anywhere? Or even worse, going backward. And maybe also next time around, also let's add up to unleash all the potential capacities, potential to unlock all the thought leaderships as well coming to showcase what from the youth, from the grassroots, everything that we can aggregate, showcase to the world here, that there are so many innovative activities happening to promote sustainability in Indonesia, but also to the world that we can be hosted at ISF as, again, the flagship platform for the world for sustainability issue.
Thank you. Mustika, you want to reflect on that?
Yeah, I think as Batari also mentioned, there's so many agenda discussion this year, especially that we put water also in the agenda. It was really nice to see. But I think as Bapak mentioned, we need to get more diverse stakeholders in the discussion. And I see ISF as a bridge between local innovators like ours in Indonesia to global to the global, because we have a lot of great innovators here in Indonesia. So I think that's all from me.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe before going to Pak Rahmat, and we'll also have a QR code for Q&A. Sorry. Okay. But I think Pak Edo's point on there's an agenda here, 8% growth, but we need to do it in a green, resilient, and inclusive way. I think ISF can be that platform to not only showcase solutions, but also show how can we do it, right? So Pak Rahmat, you've heard many perspectives, right? From the youth, from the knowledge, from the private sector, and Pak Edo, of course, as many hats. Any reflections, and also on maybe Pak Edo's point on having a stock take every year at ISF to see where we are, right? I think that could be very impactful.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. To be honest, I'm very humbled and very grateful to hear. First of all, I see someone who's been with ISF 3 times, 2 times, 1 time, right? So it means that every year we have new friends, and hopefully we'll have more new ambassadors for this event. And then we also try to learn and evolve, because what is clear to me right now is that we need this event. Indonesia needs this event, maybe Global South needs this event, and hopefully the world needs this event as well. And hopefully we can continue and make it more impactful. In terms of the stock take, I was thinking about it the past few days, and obviously the work and the output is not happening in these 2 days. It happens in the other 363 days. But it started and it get strengthened in these 2 days. I remember in the first ISF, we discussed a lot about solar panel manufacturing. And now we have a few gigawatt per annum solar manufacturing capability in Indonesia from maybe 70 megawatt. If I'm not mistaken, 170 to 100 megawatt, now multiple gigawatts. So that is progress. I remember our ambition on renewable energy in power is, I forgot what is number, but right now at least maybe grow 2 to 3 times. If you add the 100 gigawatt that the president was looking into as well, then it'll be multiple fold. And it start initially the discussions here. We also discuss about electric vehicle, for example. So some of this discussion happen, and of course, this is good time to reflect, and then good time to make connection, and hopefully the next few days we execute that. And being inclusive, we hear you. I think it's very, very important. One thing that we have been successful in the past 3 years is to make this event free for the participants. It is a true public and private partnership. We are very grateful to our supporters, sponsors, partners. They all come and they want to see this successful, put a lot of real resources, financial, brain power, time, to make this a reality. We are just organizer here to collect this energy and put it into the same direction. And hopefully if we can continue making this free, meaning that it's accessible to whoever want to come and participate, I think that is the spirit. Hopefully we can continue every year like this.
Thank you, Pak Rahmat. Now, perhaps we will take time to see what the audience have questions on, right? So if the committee can show the questions on the screen, we can have a look, right? And see what are the different reflections or questions from you participants, right? Many of you, this may be your first time at ISF, this may be your second time. So, but we want to see across the board what has been the reflections. So, yeah, maybe while we wait for the questions, Batari, do you want to share more of your reflections as well?
I think I would like to echo 2 things. One, what Pak Rahmat mentions, it's a place to also to have more friends. In 2024, we systemically collaborate with 2 organizations. I think now we collaborate with 5 organizations because I think we cannot do this alone, as Pak Antony mentioned. And what we try to do is that we want to showcase that going green is financially viable. Going green is making business case because until we prove that, I think we cannot scale the solutions. I think that's what we try to do together also, and we use ISF as a platform. And to do that, we cannot do it alone. So to Pak Rahmat's point, we need to do it together. So this is a place to find friends, to collaborate. And I like also to echo what Pak Edo mentions, the stock take. So we need a stronger feedback loop because technology advance, we need more proof point, we need more evidence, and then we can make stronger policy. So those 2 points as an addition, Nick.
Okay, thank you, Batari. Okay, I see many questions in already, and it's voted, yeah. So I'm not choosing this. So one of the top questions is, and maybe this is to Pak Antony, Pak Edo, or Pak Rahmat, and also Mustika. How can we assure justice in energy transition and our climate commitments beside business as usual? I think yeah. Do you want? Who wants to take this from the panel? Pak Mustika, what did you represent? Okay, Mustika. Go ahead, Pak Edo, you first, and we can take a few reflections.
Justice. That's a tough. Not even justice. My brain connects to Justice League, but now I have to talk about climate justice. Anyway, I think I just will be very short. So when we talk about justice, we have to look into all dimensions, aspects of that, what we mean by justice. Number 1, the horizontal part, justice. We have to make sure that the UN always uses this word. I used to work for the UN, so I'm going to use the word now. No one left behind. Make sure that there is the issue of relative justice at the horizontal level is addressed. We know a case, if you remember, the capability theory, the so-called relative deprivation. So we have to make sure that people are not relatively deprived compared to their cohorts, counterparts in this energy transition journey. Number two, the vertical part of the justice. So we have to make sure that the process is inclusive, it is open, it's not a top-down autocratic process. It has to make sure, we have to make sure that everyone, especially those at the ground, are well taken care. Hence, all this, we know energy trilemma I'm not saying that it can be solved, but it can be managed, and it should be managed, and it's not only the responsibility of government, but it's the responsibility of everyone, every single person in this planet, that we have to make sure that the issue of the sustainability, security, and affordability and access to affordability are well mentioned. And number three is more like, I would say, the global international issue of justice. There is a principle in this fight against climate change, common but differentiated responsibility. I think every single nation in this world should adhere to that principle. Yes, everyone is responsible, but the degree of the responsibility should be relative to their, I would say, capability to each country. And it's different, idiosyncratic. So these three aspects of justice we have to look at, and it's our responsibility to basically remind each other so that people will not miss that or deflect their responsibility. And ISF could be a forum to always do such reminder on the just aspect in energy transition.
Please, Mustika.
Yeah, I think just adding from Paedo, justice for us means for the communities that vulnerable to climate change, we actually design solution that involving the communities, make sure that the solutions is hyper-local, that also providing solutions that communities need. So I think that's what happened in East Nusa Tenggara, very vulnerable to climate change, and if we can provide also solutions that can benefit for them.
Thank you. So our next question, and I will give this to Anthony and Pak Rahmat. How can we get more deal flow and capital coming to Indonesian projects that could be announced next year at ISF? So I think this is only like, how can we turn this dialogue into a pipeline building dialogue as well, right? Because one thing is only talk, but another thing is to generate that into initiatives, generate that into projects, mobilize capital into not only the country but also the region. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I think this is a very good point, Pak Rahmat. And looking back, I would propose personally to have a sort of like a joint secretariat, because I think where all of these pipelines are on the line, it's our mandate in Cabinet Zero Hub to ensure the deal goes through. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of barriers, like you say, it's not gonna settle in 48 hours, definitely. The works is just gonna start on the next nice 365 days. And this point is really crucial to ensure that the pipelines turns out to be a real deal and give a real impact to Indonesia or the whole world. So I think that's that's a good point. And personally, I would propose to you one of those to-do lists after ISF is finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Basically, first, Indonesia will need a lot of investments in infrastructure, in climate resilience, coastal protections, for example, energy and whatnot, right? So there is a lot of potential deal pipeline. The goal is to make sure this deal ideas can be constructed into investable deals. So I think we do have homework in the government. Some is already very clear, some maybe need something to work on. So one thing that we are working on in our office in the coordinating Ministry of Infrastructure and Regional Development is that we are setting up, it's kind of like a unit, infra project facilitation office. So I got asked to lead this, at least in the beginning. So yeah, what we need to do is all these deal flows, at least in infrastructure, we'll need to monitor, at least need to know what kind of, what is the situation. So make sure that the money is not only potential investment, but it'll become infrastructure on the ground. But yeah, today is the start.
Thank you, Pak Rahmat. We have so many questions, and I think a lot of them is we need more topics on indigenous communities, we need topics on healthcare, we need more sessions on forest and land use. So let's work on that next year so that we can cover more topics, right? Which is not only climate, but also capture the wide range of the topic that we have. So with that, I would like to thank the panelists and also the audience. Please give a round of a hand to the panelists. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Nicholas, for leading the session, that fire chat. And I would like to invite everyone for a photo session before you leave the stage right now. So please do face the cameras and don't forget to smile. And we're calling the camera friends as well to seize this moment. Very, very interesting insights and reflections on ISF that have been done for some years. And it is one of the key takeaways that I remember is that let's not only stop on the discussion each year, but also look back at what we did every single last year, so we know that we have made progresses. So we'll keep that in mind. And also it's great to see how the talks and even movements as well as businesses on sustainability have been led by the younger generations. I mean, we've seen how passionate they are when they talk about sustainability. So it's a great start because they're going to be keeping the legacy moving forward. And there are also hopes as well for the next ISF that we can actually engage with more stakeholders and make sure that what we talk here in the forum will be put into action. So talking about youth and sustainability, we have brought students, younger generation to this forum as well. So ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the choir from Kilau Vokalia Dian Didaktika. Please enjoy.
Sorong ke kiri, sorong ke kanan. Yanko rambe yanko, Temi no kibe, Yuma no kobumbeko, Yuma no bungo awe ade. Temi no kibe, Yuma no kobumbeko, Yuma no bungo awe ade. Hey, yanko rambe yanko, Eo na ala okombe. Hey, yanko rambe yanko, Eo na ala okombe. Temi no kibe, Yuma no kobumbeko, Yuma no bungo awe ade. Temi no kibe, Yuma no kobumbeko, Yuma no bungo awe ade. Honke honke, honke riro, honke jombe, honke riro, honke honke, honke riro, honke jombe, honke riro, honke honke, honke riro, honke jombe, honke riro, honke honke, honke riro, honke jombe, jombe riro, yanko.
Let's give a big round of applause to Kila Vokalia from Dian Didaktika School. Thank you very much for the choir. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue with our agenda this afternoon. It is a panel discussion with a very intriguing theme as well: growing sustainable companies in the energy transition, raising green capital to drive meaningful transformation. I hope we're ready to follow this important discussion, and to lead the discussion, I would like to invite the moderator, Ms. Eliane Wolf, Global Co-Leader, McKinsey Sustainability, with a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, joining us for this very exciting session. And I am so happy to have a very large panel joining us for this discussion. And we're starting off very strong with Jacqueline Lam. She's the Regional Director, Asia, at Sustainable Energy for All, working with government, industry, and donors to accelerate energy transition across Southeast Asia. Please help me welcome her. Next, we have Aldo Joson, who's the Head of Sustainability Operations, Fiber and Mill at April Group, where he oversees the implementation of the company's sustainability practices across its plantation and mill operations. Thank you for joining us. All right. Next, we have Cindy Markel. Cindy Markel is the VP Finance APAC at Siemens Energy and is responsible for leading financial strategy structuring partnership across the region. Thank you, Cindy. We're working on the clapping. Next, we have Piachard Arm Isarbakti. He's the CEO at Brandai & Companies, a sustainability and transformation consultancy working with leading corporations across Asia. Welcome, Arm. Thank you so much. Next, we have Yuan Marshall. He's the country manager Indonesia for the International Finance Corporation, IFC. And he's responsible for mobilizing private capital, advisory services, and investment to support climate transition, infrastructure, human capital, and inclusive growth. Then we have Jacqueline Dove. She's the Managing Director, Global Head of Sustainable Finance, Strategic Initiative at Standard Chartered. And she leads the bank's framework for green transition, social and sustainable lending, building on over 25 years of international banking experience. And then last but not least, we have Akash Bahafzar. He's the managing partner at Sastec Bank and co-founder of SkyQuest Technology, where he focuses on bridging sustainable innovation with financing solutions. Wonderful. So we have very diverse panel today, and we have prepared a lot of questions and diverse questions. So I'm sure there is something exciting for everyone. Let us start. Arm, let me ask you, what are key trends and investor sentiments that you observe in green investment today?
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me and Brandy and companies here. We've been in the business of trying to have people, profit, planet into the way that you operate, not only business, but city, country, and the global economy as well. So before going deep into key trends, I would like to highlight something about fundamental understanding when it comes to financing sustainable growth. People always look at the term sustainable and they try to invest for the goodwill, which is great. But at the end of the day, when the economics go down, you come back to ask the big questions. Where is my return? And then when that feeling comes into the boardroom, into the conversation of the executives, you start to confront with the so-called dilemma. And it creates a pressure to the leaders to make a decision forward. And I think this set the next couple of years in making a right decision on financing the sustainable growth. So that one lead to a couple of key trends interesting. One would be, let's say, the idea of investment has to shift from the green projects into support the transition, because you want an impact at scale. Right now, I think people in the area of sustainable growth feeling a bit exhausted because you keep trying hard, but the progress seems to be elusive because it doesn't change the structural level. So structural change is a must from coming year in. And because of that, the second part is you need to ensure that the finance grow into the right place with the idea of having more regulatory and more disclosure in place. Because you want to ensure that this investment will at least turn to be profitable. Because if the investment doesn't go to be profitable, you will become a part of the problem, not a solution. And the last one, I think it comes to the technology, because right now we have data, we have AI, we have blockchain, we have the technology readiness. The idea is how to increase your traceability performance, how to ensure that you can unveil the values along the supply chain, value chains, and this will be something that decisive for the future of investment. I will stop here for others.
Thank you so much. And maybe building on these trends and also initiatives that can happen, what are some of these trends, initiatives, and I ask Cindy, that you see private institutions, companies are doing? What is going on right now?
Okay, I love this question because this is exactly in the area of what my company does. So we are looking at all the technological innovations and then making sure that the energy transition is happening in a systematic way and makes sense. And just like what you said earlier, a lot of times investors, they look at the bottom line or whether they give the return that they're looking for. And that's common, and that's human nature as well. I would do the same. The most important thing is that making sure that we are looking at different portfolios of technological innovations. For example, there are certain renewable energy right now, economically, is still quite not achievable. However, with the transition, we know that down the line, several years down the line, it will become very affordable. And what we're doing right now is that we make sure that we have all the solutions for the transition. You know, we don't look at just coal to gas. We also look at nuclear. And nuclear, you have large-scale nuclear. You have small modular nuclear that can be ramped up even faster and much, much cheaper. And it's all clean, right? So I think, it's really a alliances of companies, investors, as well as government. Because after all, most governments in the world, some of their top priorities is to make sure that people can have access to affordable energy. And just like I think the sessions earlier, talking about clean water, having access to clean water as well as energy, I think is fundamental rights. So I would also leave it at that and for the others to jump in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cindy. And really building on this theme of how can we bridge until that future where we are certain that it becomes affordable, but still there are challenges now. Maybe next, Jacqueline Lam, if I can go to you, on what are some of the key barriers today that are existing and really preventing the channeling of global climate finance to local projects? And how can public and private entities overcome these barriers together?
Great, thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody, and I want to highlight, some of the key barriers that Elian mentioned, and to also follow up on Cindy's point earlier to ensure how do we ensure affordable access. So Sustainable Energy for All as a United Nations program focused on the delivery of Sustainable Development Goal number 7, which is universal clean energy access. How do we bridge some of these gaps and facilitate access? I think there are two really key points. The first is to ensure data-driven planning across multiple sectors. Now, we really see the energy transition as an enabler for the decarbonization of industry, decarbonization of transport, buildings, etc. And therefore, the data-driven analytics around energy transition planning and investment planning as well requires us to look at the decarbonization and mapping the potential demand across renewable energy for clean transport, energy efficiency in buildings, in industrialization, etc. And so this is part of the work that we do together with governments in preparing energy transition and investment plans. So first of all, the data-driven approach. And then second, partnering with public and private sectors. Now, one of the things that we really reiterate in terms of clean energy financing is that actually 60 to 70% of clean energy financing comes from industry, comes from the private sector. So while there is public sector catalytic financing that can be supportive, a large extent of the private sector financing will need to be, and we've heard a lot about project de-risking with the earlier panels, both yesterday as well as today. So how do we look at project financing? And a key component of that is the project preparation, which also includes skills development both in the local community as well as within the local industry sector development as well. So this is also another area where we see there's a lot of potential capacity for industry to come in to support some of the skills development in order to facilitate project preparation for future project investment, de-risking the project investment so that there's a conducive environment for these investments to take place as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe Aldo, I can ask you same question to build your perspective on top of Jacqueline's.
Thanks, Elian. Thanks, Jacqueline L, because we have two Jacquelines on the panel. For us, it's really, I guess one of the barriers is actually thinking that you need a big capital to ensure that you finance a project to ensure that communities become more resilient. As everybody's aware, we need to help communities to transition into more sustainable economies, into greener economies, but that transition needs to be a just transition because there are also obviously real developmental concerns and developmental priorities that communities need to still be adaptive to. So for us, what we do is a three-part approach. First is ensuring that communities are aware that there are other programs that are available. For example, some of our partnerships with the Indonesian government for the Proclim villages is to accelerate, for example, even the simple part of waste management within communities. If they're able to manage their waste and they convert that into fertilizers, that really shortens and reduces the value chain into localization of sourcing. So being aware that just managing your actual waste within communities helps you cut. You don't need to import the fertilizers and all those things yet. So first one is about awareness. The second is about climate adaptation. What parts of the infrastructure within the communities need to adapt because some of the challenges of climate change is coming. Extreme weather patterns, extreme rainfall and all that stuff. How are communities able to adjust the infrastructure within those communities to be more climate resilient? Yeah. And sometimes that involves just sharing the technology and expertise that we have as a forestry plantation manager in Sumatra, allowing our water management and lowland planning teams, for example, to go to the villages, mapping out the topography, making them realize, oh, if you have extreme weather condition here, this is what's going to happen. So first one is you make them more aware. The second one is you help them with the adaptation. And the third part is you accelerate it with sometimes company-funded climate resilient projects that then allow the communities to accelerate. That can be, as what Jackie was saying about capacity building, ensuring that there's actually a workforce that's ready to adapt to the climate resilience. So those three things, you need improved awareness, you need to allow people to be able to know what they need to be adapting to, and you can accelerate by funding. Internally for us, we have sort of like an internal conservation fund of $1 per ton for every wood that comes into our pulp and paper mill. We take $1 for that and invest it in conservation projects. That translates to partner with communities around our concession areas of conserving about 30,000 hectares of natural forest that is not part of our land bank. We make no claims that it's part of our land bank, but you're accelerating communities to see nature-based solutions by financing it through an internal funding mechanism. So those three things for now, Eliana, and I'll leave it to Mike. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you hit upon so many fantastic themes to build on. But maybe for a moment, if we stay on the role and the contribution of institutions, especially also of multilateral institutions, and the role they have to play, they can play in financing sustainable transition. So maybe, Ewan, if I can ask you for a moment about what is your perspective on the role of these multilateral organizations? How can they support this sustainable transition?
Thank you. So, as someone who works for a multilateral institution, let me start by saying I think it's important. I think multilateral. There's a couple of things. Firstly, multilateral institutions are not all the same, and so they perform different functions. So we'll see some multilateral institutions that have a role of supporting government directly, whether that is through the transfer of knowledge or whether that is helping to provide budgetary support to government. And then we'll see other multilaterals whose focus is much more around supporting and enabling private sector growth. So from where I sit, I'm very much in the private sector support camp. So as I think about IFC specifically, I think there are a number of things that we do. The first thing is we're an investor. We have a balance sheet. We take risk. We lend to companies, and we take equity stakes in companies. So we are there together with them as a financier. The second thing that we try to do is we try to enable, to mobilize, to catalyze other investors. You know, there is a clear recognition that the multilateral universe alone is not going to finance the necessary investments we need to drive us towards a more sustainable future. That is going to come from the private sector. What role can we play in helping, in aiding, and supporting them? The third thing that we try to do, and you know, I'm not sure if we're always successful, I think sometimes we are, sometimes maybe not, is we're trying to pioneer a little bit. We're trying to innovate. We're trying to create new approaches and new structures. Sometimes we do that ourselves. A lot of the time that is in partnership with others. And sometimes we are borrowing from other people. But it is a role, I think, of multilaterals to try and use the license we've got to push the envelope. The fourth thing we look to do is we recognize the important role that government plays. And government sets the enabling environment that helps to create the foundations for private sector growth and opportunity. And so we look to engage with governments to try and help them set as conducive and supportive a policy environment as possible. And the final area is knowledge. How can we, as a global institution, try and cross-pollinate knowledge that we get from one country to another, from one sector to another, what we hear from one partner to another? So I think there's sort of 5 main areas that we look to try and deploy in aid of this process.
Wonderful. Yes, Jacqueline, I was about to ask from Standard Chartered's perspective.
Thank you. And I was just going to say, Ewan probably just described exactly what, from a private financial institution, the exact same process, really. And I think that the key word, and you've heard it throughout the last 2 days, and I have to admit, if I'm invited back next year, I am super excited to see how we've delivered on all the ambition and opportunity that we have discussed over the last day and a half. But the 2 words, as I say, to get to scale, you need partnership. And the areas that Ewan just outlined, Standard Chartered does the same. You know, we think around the education, not only internally in our organization, but with our clients, the capability building to really understand how we integrate sustainability end-to-end throughout our organization, but also the awareness for our clients to understand in all the 52 different markets we're in and across the 11 sectors that we've set net zero targets for, what does that mean for them from a financing perspective, from a profitability perspective, and how do we help them on that journey? To Ewan's point, everyone's at a different stage of that journey, really understanding what is the technology readiness available to them and helping them with those connections. We see ourselves not too dissimilar, as Ewan has just described, as that super connector across our markets to really connect what's changing. What is the technology available? What financing do you need? And again, I'm sure we'll go into more detail about this, but the multiple different financing instruments that are available are not going to be the financial instruments that we've had in the past where it's a simple loan or you issue a bond. We really have to partner to think around how we structure things differently to then facilitate what our clients need in the future. And again, Jacqueline touched on it as well, particularly how we de-risk, and that's that everybody is involved in taking some part of that risk sharing, both from a social perspective, which we've heard, from an environmental perspective, but also that so our businesses can continue to be profitable and sustainable.
Wonderful. Just to make the round complete, Akash, if I can also ask your view on this topic.
First of all, Assalamu alaikum, namaste. It's really a pleasure and honor to be part of this august audience and a wonderful gathering, all championing the cause of sustainability for our firm belief that the world is one. So the true sustainability has to be looked at from a globalization perspective and reallocation of both financial, technical, human resources. So the role of multilaterals, primarily in my view and what we do at SUSTEC, is basically to see how the learnings, first of all, can actually be brought in from successful case studies globally. And our firm belief is there is enough and more solutions out there. And probably we just have to find the right context and bring them together. So where probably multilateral institutions and the new age ways of looking at it would be to how we can really access, along with the global capital, if we can look at accessing the diaspora capital, as well as the digital, the Web3 world, the tokenization aspects. I think that could really drive change faster. And in my view, can really help champion projects which are successful, achieving the targets of impact in some part of the world, to then scale it, and successfully implement and scale at speed, in order for all of us to be in a safe and a beautiful planet to remain safe. So.
Thank you so much. And on the topic of the multilateral institutions that we've been coming again and again, maybe this is towards Cindy, but if we think about their role in helping to lower the cost of capital, I would just be really excited to hear your sense of how they can play this role.
Yes, for all those large scale of projects, the cost of capital, a lot of times it is also needs to be jointly committed or solicited from different sources, government entities, private investors, as well as institutional investors. There's also one element I want to go back to earlier that in terms of the whole sustainability is that there are also a lot of projects that we may not see on the surface on a large scales. However, they are in the background, and there are a lot of investments being put into R&D. You know, we all know about this hydrogen, right? They're clean, and once they're commercialized, they're much, much cheaper. It's nearly free. It's like water, right? So I think the capital elements, you know, needs to be planned from multi areas, as well as looking at the long term. A lot of times we tend to look at the return of investment within certain payback period, but when it comes to sustainable energy going into the future, I think the focus then needs to be a much long-term view, as well as the commitments from government entities and all the other stakeholders, as I mentioned earlier.
Thank you so much. And you were mentioning, Jacqueline was also mentioning it, Aldo, the necessary collaboration really between the public, the private sector, and really funneling capital together. So if we come to everyone's favorite topic of the blended finance, and how blended finance can really help to de-risk financing projects. I think Arm was also mentioning earlier, you were mentioning about the risk and how to really help approach the risk. So maybe that's a good question, Ewan, back to you, around how blended finance can play this de-risking role.
Thank you. So I think from an MDB perspective, one of the things that we are looking to do is to catalyze and support increased private sector investment. And blended finance is an incredibly powerful tool to that end. But perhaps just to take a moment, because I don't think blended finance is a single instrument. I think there's three types of blended finance. I think we have concessional blended finance. I think we have structural blended finance. And I think we have commercial blended finance. So concessional blended finance is perhaps the area that we're most familiar with. So the notion that we can use cheaper money, concessional money, to buy down the cost of risk, to lower the cost of capital, and to make a project work. And it's an incredibly powerful tool. As IFC, we've been using this for about 15 years now. We've probably supported about $30 billion worth of investment across 100 different countries. It is not a silver bullet solution, however. It does tend to be quite bespoke, trying to match up the interests of those that are giving the concessional capital with the nature of the projects that are looking to use the capital. It does require a rigorous governance process to make sure that the capital is being deployed in the most effective, efficient, and with the minimum concessionality. And there are reporting requirements, so there are transaction costs. It's not free money. But that being said, it can be a very powerful tool, either to make a project work or to bring in finance. Structural blended finance tends to have a difference in timing. And it's something that MDBs have used for 50 years. And so sometimes what we'll do is we'll lend for longer terms than private sector investors. So we're going to be there longer, we're going to stay longer, we're going to stay with the partner till the end, but allow the private sector to turn their capital a lot quicker. Or maybe we'll invest sooner make a first mover type investment and send a signal, cover some of the costs to the party who's looking for finance. And commercial blended finance is perhaps a sort of a new tool, and this is very specific to MDBs. But MDBs have significant origination capacity across a range of markets. So as IFC, we operate in over 100 different countries. And we have staff on the ground in 100 different countries. And we're finding transactions. Those transactions benefit from our credit processes, our environmental processes, social governance. And we build a portfolio of assets. And what you do with commercial blended finance is you create portfolios that resemble the portfolio we're creating for ourselves. So when we put $1 down, we deploy $1 of somebody else's money, or $2, and we crowd more money into those projects. It has the advantage of creating scale, but it has a disadvantage that it tends to rely quite heavily on MDB origination, and so can be a little bit narrow. So we have different forms of blended finance, each with different types of uses that I think can be deployed in different circumstances.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I see you ready.
We're doing a tag team. Firstly, I think Ewan's definition of blended finance is absolutely accurate, and I agree with him 100% that it's not the silver bullet. I think, first and foremost, blended finance has been around for a very long time, and from a commercial bank perspective, think about in the perspective of Standard Chartered, we rank, I think, #1 on the convergence platform for blended finance transactions. So this is not new, but as Ewan says, it's not the only instrument to use, and it has its challenges. From a commercial bank perspective, again, Ewan's touched on some of the mechanisms that help from a de-risking perspective. When we talk around technical assistance, so really ensuring that there is the support for a project. Guarantees also really help, and from an insurance perspective, trying to de-risk the particular project. Really having the insurance sector come more into the fold, and again, we talk around partnerships to how we structure these deals, I think is necessary. And then, of course, on the concessional piece, but it shouldn't be about just the concessional piece, and really from a sustainability perspective, and what I mean by sustainability, for the longevity and consistency of financing, we really shouldn't rely on it. But it is a tool as part of that arsenal. And I think if we look at, and Cindy, you touched on this a while back, if we look at the regulatory structure for a financial institution and the cost of capital, blended finance is almost a necessity in order for us to help then facilitate the financing of these projects and making sure that capital is going to where we need to in relation to those projects.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. And maybe, Akash, we were earlier a little bit talking about the stage that also a project is in, and perhaps how blended finance and a bank can support a little bit more advanced projects as well. So just would also love to hear your perspective.
Thank you. Just a bit of a quick background. So at SUSTEC, we are relatively, we were announced at the COP29. So SUSTEC stands for Sustainable and Scalable Technologies for Economic Hub, with the primary mission to work in this blended finance category with the vision, as we all know, world is full of successful pilots, but unfortunately failed scales. So we are basically trying to address the gap by seeing how do we identify solutions and invest in solutions which have tested in one part or one market very well relative to the context of another market, with the primary metric of being a technology or a solution or a project which can be scaled at least in 5 or 7 countries of 100 million population and above. So with that in mind, what we are working with DFIs by taking that initial de-risking of the technology projects, however, then blending it with tokenizing and creating the risks, making the risks more visible. Because one of the success factors or failure factors is not knowing the risks where it exists. So to be able to delineate the risks, digitize it, provide mechanisms as a new age digital finance platform, we are basically looking at how we can make for all stakeholders visibility of real-time data, visibility of the risk, and thereby take conscious action. and also mobilize private capital by way of bringing in diaspora capital, which is a very powerful source. We've seen this across the world in parts of Africa, and you're looking very soon to start in this part of the world as well, in Indonesia, where that can be a powerful way of blending or bringing in capital, private capital, which is needed, and plus another layer of the whole Web3 approach of tokenizing assets, which just opens up completely new world of resources which are made available. So we've seen several success stories with it. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can I just, I think this is a really exciting part of where the future of, and I think the earlier panel on decarbonization touched on this, the marry between digital and sustainability comes together. And I think that's a huge opportunity that will benefit both sides. It will complement each other, not least for the point you've just made, where the transparency and the ease of doing business, particularly when if you're a donor of an NGO or a charity or an investor looking at a project, you have the clarity and the transparency, as you say, of where is that investment going, what is the impact, how are we then reporting on it, but then also the ease, the flow of capital as well, which is very secure. And I think the advancement of both of those will have a huge positive impact moving forward. Tokenization and digital assets is something as a bank we're heavily invested in, and an area of innovation that the two parts of the business are coming together. So we work closely with our digital team and our sustainability team at the bank.
Yes, please go ahead. I love it.
Yeah, because I think I was also talking to Elian earlier about this. I'm from a company that really, I believe my company provides the overall portfolio for the sustainable energy transition into the future. Now, of course, the goal for everyone, not just for my company, is that everyone should have reliable, affordable, sustainable energy, right, going forward. And the most important thing, I believe, really is the commitment from government entities, also as well as multinational and investors. And this is really all the stakeholders are within this. And I think one of the main elements is that such an investment environment or certain countries, they are not providing enough transparency, which then can also, greatly de-risk that investment environment. And I think this is not something that is difficult to do. I think greater transparency also, as Jacqueline mentioned, that flow of capital will then come in. And this really would stimulate and accelerate that whole energy transformation in any country or regions.
Wonderful. I love the energy. And perhaps also this theme of collaboration between private, public sector, but across the region as well and across the borders. And there's probably a lot also for Indonesia to learn. Maybe, Jacqueline, if I can ask you next about what are perhaps some successful cases, projects on the cross-border regional collaboration that Indonesia could learn from?
Absolutely, thank you. Actually, I want to say Indonesia is a starting point in terms of not just learning, but setting some of the leadership examples. So one key example that I want to share is also on some of the cross-border electricity interconnection projects that are being spearheaded by quite a number of ASEAN member states, for example, Indonesia included. So that has facilitated quite a number of pledges of financing by really looking at really concrete interconnection points that are going to facilitate both renewable energy implementation as well as cross-border flows of renewable energy. Now, that being said, in addition to the ASEAN Power Grid example, I want to also share some of our results-based lending initiatives that really goes back to the earlier examples of blended finance, where we are working on under the Universal Energy Facility framework. We are working on facilitating local developers in project delivery and bringing in blended finance in order to also facilitate local currency denominated project procurement, equipment procurement, which then helps to facilitate local contractors, being able to take on these projects and being able to facilitate the procurement of equipment through local currency denomination for project financing. And then second, also really expanding the local contractor competencies and capabilities through facilitating local currency denomination for them to be able to take on some of these larger scale, utility scale types of projects through the results-based lending facility. And one of the ongoing examples that is currently taking place is the Mission 300 project, where the target is really looking at bringing electrification to 300 million, collaborating with the likes of World Bank, African Development Bank, and some of the other philanthropies. So really a real-life example of what blended finance looks like and how each of the different players come together and to support some of these cross-border initiatives that the de-risking need is especially significant given the number of variables in play, and bringing the blended finance platform in order to support some of these de-risking initiatives as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I love how we've been talking about the private-public sector collaboration in this dimension, but also regionally, within a region, within a country, but also cross-country. Perhaps another aspect we've not discussed so far is the collaboration across the society. So we talk about sustainability, we talk about being green, but what about being inclusive? So if we think not about the large organizations that many of you are representing, but if we also think a bit more about grassroots initiatives, the local communities, and that's perhaps a discussion to start out that I would love to have with Aldo and Arm, both of you, to hear a bit your perspectives,
Sure.
how we can strengthen this.
Thank you. I mean, at the heart of what everybody's been sharing right now is about partnerships, right? And partnerships are really powerful platforms because at the very heart of it is there are different perspectives that people bring and different institutions bring to the table. But without the core of partnerships, which is people, then everything that we're doing and everything that we're talking about, blended finance, all these projects, this transition, without the core of partnerships, which has to be people-oriented in the societies and communities that are impacted by these projects, then all of this will just go nowhere, right? And for us, what we found out is unless you put people first and put them at the heart of the conversation, of the transition again, to resilient climate and green communities, unless they are part of that, then the journey will really mean nothing. And what we found out, a lot of the big, maybe barriers to that journey is that their basic socioeconomic situation is still not resolved. You cannot go to a community and say, I need you to help me as an MNC fulfill my net zero projects. They will just tell you, thank you very much. You will see the next person who wants to speak with us. They need to be part of the journey. And how do we make them part of the journey? Part of the journey is having open conversations of what they really need in the villages themselves. So we have a lot of, we have our own CSR, we have our own community development thing. And I already mentioned earlier, we partner with about 50 villages for the climate initiative that we partner with the ministry, the government of Indonesia. And what we found out, a lot of the things that we need to answer their things is providing them with some capital to start some SMEs, be a responsible company of sourcing from the SMEs and projects that we have. I usually say when I go for talks, if any company tells you they have an agroforestry project with community, ask them who takes up the market of the produce. If they don't know the answer, then they're really not sincere. If you're financing agroforestry projects with community, the company must be ready to be the first uptaker of those produce. So we have a commitment of 80 to 90% sourcing within the communities that are part of our footprint. So a lot of these, sometimes the last milestone in a lot of these CSR or community development projects is possible. The other one, and then I'll give my esteemed colleague to share, is we also partner with villages for fire-free village programs. So we have under MOU right now almost 1 million hectares of village footprint that have promised that they will not use fire as a tool for land management. But you can't go to a community saying, I don't want you to use fire. Because you have to ask, why are they using fire? Well, it's a land management tool. It's the most accessible land management tool. So you give them access to an alternative and you incentivize that. So that's why our Fire-Free Village program has seen a reduction of 95% of fire instances in communities that we partner with. It's through addressing the socioeconomic factors and levers of communities that we are able to facilitate the transition to a green economy. Yep.
I fully agree with you. And to say the least, that the most difficult part of climate financing is human. It seems to be unrelated, but it's just human. I think if we recall the history, you can see that the Industrial Revolution tried to skip the human involvement by bringing in the technology, machinery, automation, because it's difficult to manage human to get return as you expect. But this time, it's like the entrepreneur's life, business leaders' life getting more difficult because you need to manage so many dilemmas along the way to ensure that you navigate your business, your country through unprecedented problems that we are dealing with. So the idea is simple because in the past, you have industrial revolution because you solve the problems of convenience and accessibility. And then you provide a solution for the market and market respond effectively. Today, I think we just can't separate the human element and environment element. We just need to bring it as one and see how can the private sector together with the government sector, together with people as well, can shake hands and create the new solution, then mechanism that answer the common agenda and have a shared prosperity. But this is not what we are built for, you know what I mean? Because, along many decades, we teach each other how to be competitive. And when you try to be competitive, you look for your self-profitability, beyond others. But here is the time that if we want to increase our ability to collaborate, why not practice the collaborativeness? Why don't we try to talk about something that you and me and together can enlarge the pie and we can enjoy, the higher profitability, higher sharing, but, we make it happen because of collaboration. I think we launched a so-called Sustainomy, the new economic framework 2 years ago with the economists. We believe that to fix the problems that we are trying to fix in sustainable ways, you need to strengthen the middle. And this is the part that we overlook. In terms of countries, you need to strengthen the developing countries, emerging market and developing countries. That's why you need to have a look at it. We often have maybe ODA, have the money from advanced economy to help least developed country. That is great to help them survive. But to strengthen, to create the supply chain, the value chain, to help bridging the gap, you need to focus on the middle. Same as the small and medium enterprise. If you have a strong small and medium enterprise in your country, you create more employments with livelihood, with vulnerable peoples, and then you can serve the large company, which is more resilient and more fairness. Right now the capital will not go to where you create the most profitable. The capital will go to where you create resilience and fairness that help you make sustainable profit. So here is the middle, and to strengthen the middle, you might need to reimagine, let's say 3 R's. The first, new rules, right? The rules of competitiveness today is who help fixing the problems the most will win the market. So we need to create that condition, and the government need to play the critical part, not to incentivize project, but to incentivize to create and establish the market that where we see people and planet as a new premium. So people can spend more on the premium, and then they can support the cause of the world movement at the same time. This is the new rule. And the role, for example, we work closely with many regulators in Thailand. You can only regulate the market that you know exactly how it's operates. But today, everything we are in conversation is like innovation. We need to try and learn and try and learn. So you cannot regulate. You can only facilitate and help them to get along the way, not to break any things that you can't break, but ensure that we move forward. Because at the end of the day, climate financing, equitable transition, we still need to grow the economy. Otherwise, everything will fall down. And the last is relationship. So we need to ensure that we see the relationship between private sector, government sector, and the community in a different way. Because in the past, if you have CSR budget, during the time that you have the prosper economy, you spend lots of CSR money to community. You splash money to them. You never ask them. You never empathize them. They receive the money. Tomorrow, they run out of the money. To build the local community, you need to work with them, get them on the journey. And the most important part is to build them the capacity. And that is the most critical part. And you need to have so many instruments. Maybe like in Thailand, we have negative taxation income to ensure that we have more people get into the taxation base. And we can support them. We know them that how can they earn, how much they earn, and what exactly we need to deal with the problems in terms of more transparent. Because everything we are in conversation is has to be bespoke, has to be tailor-made. So the new role, and new relationship will help you enlarge your contribution toward more vulnerable people, being inclusive and being more resilient in terms of sustainable future.
Wonderfully said. So there was a lot of passion in your speech, and I think in everyone's discussion we touched upon more themes than perhaps I can summarize. But in a couple of words, some of the themes that I think you brought up multiple times is really the topic of partnership, the partnership between countries, regions. But we were also talking about multilateral private institutions, private public institutions, and towards the end very much about the local communities and how to do more than pay a lip service to transition, but really make it inclusive. This inclusive, equitable growth that is one of the key mandates of financing beyond sustainability. We also talked about innovation, not just about blended finance, which has been around for a while, but really about innovative finance models and truly understanding also the shifting markets and how to mobilize capital at scale and how to promote technologies, bankable technologies, to get away from the early stage, the pilot stage financing into really fully fledged out long-term change beyond a single project, beyond a single country, but really across the region and the world. So fantastic discussions. I think we could continue. There is a lot of passion, but also, of course, I'm sure our panelists are happy to discuss after the session with members of the audience further outside. So for now, just thank you so much to all of you. It's been really exciting and a pleasure. And I think before we run off the stage, let us take a picture together. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Eliane Wolf, for leading the discussion. And we invite everyone, speakers and moderator, for a photo session. Just stay on the stage, take the center stage, and maybe move 1 or 2 steps forward. We thank all speakers for their perspective on the topic growing sustainable companies in the energy transition, raising capital green to drive meaningful transformation. We found out from the discussion what key trends are there and investor sentiments do we observe in green investments today. And what are the success examples for different green investment instruments in driving at-scale green growth? Once again, we thank all speakers and the moderator as well for leading this discussion. And ladies and gentlemen, now we present again to you Kilau Vokalia Dian Didaktika. Let's give a big round of applause to Kilau Vokalia Dian Didaktika. Students from Dian Didaktika School, thank you very much for a very impressive performance in ICF 2025. And ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please be seated. So if you are still standing around the stage area or nearby, please be seated and be ready, because we are going to have the next panel session, very interesting topic. We are going to talk about the people. So sustainability and what about the people who's going to do it. So building human capital for a sustainable future, creating green jobs in the age of AI. So once again, if you're still not seated, I would ask for your cooperation to please do so. So we are going to figure out what are the emerging trends and capabilities required in transforming to green economy. What are key access factors to build these capabilities? What are success examples as well? What is the role of human capital in scaling and unlocking next frontiers of growth and innovation and advancing sustainability goals? And also, what education reforms are essential to prepare future generations for green jobs in AI and powered world? All right, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our moderator for this session, Mr. Dino Patijalal, founder and chairman of the Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia, with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I think we got to do better than that. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, I see so many good friends here. Well, let me just invite all the panelists come on stage anyways, yes. And I'm going to introduce you while you're in your seat. My name is Dino Patijalal. I'm the chairman and founder of Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia. Let's get everybody sitting here. Abednego, you're right next to me. Good. Spencer. Yes, thank you. Good. Yes. Good. Well, thank you everybody for staying this late in the afternoon. We've had a lot of productive and inspiring discussions, and no less than the one that we're going to have today. Today we're going to discuss one of the most human-centered questions in this forum, which is how we build human capital for a sustainable future and how we can create green jobs in the age of AI. And you know, I'm a former diplomat. As somebody who was engaged in diplomacy, I've seen how nations compete on many fronts, on markets, on resources, and technology. But more and more, the defining competition of this century is not about resources or territory. The defining competition of this century is about human capability. And the countries that will thrive in this new era are those that can best prepare their people, not just with the right skills, but with the right values, with the right mindset and adaptability. In the world of work, we are seeing breathtaking changes. The latest Future of Jobs report from the World Economic Forum, they found that nearly 40% of today's skills will be outdated by 2030. And almost 60% of the global workforce will need some form of reskilling. That includes myself, of course. So at the same time, we're going to see 170 million new jobs to be created. And many of these jobs are in renewable energy, green infrastructure, AI, and digital services. So in other words, the same force that are creating disruptions, they are also creating new jobs. And the question before us today is not only how to grow our economies sustainably, but also how to grow our people sustainably. And this brings me to a very personal observation about Indonesia, because we have one of the largest young workforces in the world. About 70% of the whole population of Indonesia, around 190 million people, are of productive age. And this is an enormous opportunity for us, but only if we equip this generation with future-ready skills, because the energy transition that we are embarking on and the digital revolution are all happening simultaneously. So if we get this right, Indonesia will not just adapt to global change, we can actually lead it. But if we get it wrong, we risk being left behind in both green and AI revolution. So I think we all must remember that this is not just an economic question, this is also about equity and dignity. Green jobs cannot just belong to those in big cities or advanced economy. They must reach communities in remote areas, women in informal sector, and young people who are still waiting for opportunity to come their way. So that is by way of background to our discussion today. And the questions that we have today before this panel is, what are the critical skills and mindsets that we must cultivate to power a sustainable economy in the age of AI? And secondly, what must we do, governments, educators, business, all together to ensure that every worker in every corner can take part in this transformation? So today we have a very distinguished audience. We have Boon Hyung Ng, CEO of Temasek Foundation. Maybe you can raise your hands, yes. He bridges philanthropy and innovation for inclusive growth. Thank you. And he actually spent many years in Indonesian military facilities, so he speaks like an Indonesian. Then we have Ibu Maki Katsuno Hayashikawa. She is the director of UNESCO Regional Office in Jakarta and a champion of education reform and lifelong learning. We have also all the way from San Francisco, Spencer Lowe, head of regional sustainability for Google APAC, who is shaping the intersection of digital technology and sustainability. Sorry, where are you based? In Singapore. In Singapore, sorry. We were just talking about San Francisco earlier, so it's my mistake. And then we have on my right, Pa Abednego Tarigan, country director of Tony Blair Institute, who supports leaders on strategy, policy, and delivery. And you also work for the presidential office for 5 years. Right? We have Ibu Indri Hidayat. The middle name is too long for me to read. Director of Corporate Affairs at DCI Indonesia. Thank you, Ibu, for being here. And then we have Ibu Sondang Saktion, Human Resource Director of Schneider Electric Indonesia and Timor-Leste. Right. So let us dive right in. I'll ask the first question to Pak Boon. Yeah, for the industry, what are the critical emerging capabilities for transforming into green economy? Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pak Dino, and thank you so much for ISF. Every year I come to ISF, I see ISF growing and bustling, and so much activity. So it's so encouraging. Indonesia with 17,500 islands and 280 million population is really, I would say, a land of opportunities. Panggilan saya Boon, so short form Boon. I spent many years in the military, but kebetulan I joined Temasek, the investment company, as first managing director of sustainability. But now I'm full-time at the foundation. How the foundation works is that we use philanthropic capital as risk capital to push innovation. So in climate change, we are focused on two things. One is technology-based solutions. The other one is nature-based solutions. I just want to call out nature-based solutions because although we think of innovations, technology, AI as one big capabilities, we must never forget nature-based solutions. That includes agriculture, sustainability, agriculture. So we are very privileged and honored that we have been partnering with ISF for the last 3 years. We've run a global technology challenge, because the companies come from all over the world. Talents come from all the world, and we give them a grant so that they can pilot that technology in climate technology in Indonesia. Right? So we've been running it for 3 years. The 3 thematic areas are decarbonization, sustainable agriculture, and circular economy. So if you think about those thematic areas, we didn't come up with those 3 topics by ourselves, but we discuss it with the government, with private sector to see where are those greatest opportunities and where are the areas that can grow. So that's one, and it was quite successfully conducted this year. This year we have we have 500 companies coming from more than 50 countries wanting to do something in Indonesia. Now, second thing I want to highlight is that we cannot talk about planet without talking about income of people and prosperity. So the 2 things I think is very important is you must think about innovation, you must think about financing and funding. I just want to give one small example before I pass back to Pak Dino. Currently, we are doing a project with an Indonesian company called Iratani. Iratani is Asia accounts for 90% of global rice production. Indonesia is the largest rice producer in Southeast Asia. Rice production produces methane. Methane traps 20 times more heat than normal carbon dioxide. So now what we are doing is that we are partnering with Iratani to pilot trial alternate wetting and drying method with 900 smallholder farmers, 1 hectare each, using a blended finance method. Smallholder farmers, more than 100 million smallholder farmers in the rice value chain. There's about 30 million in Indonesia. So what does smallholder farmers short of? Access to financing, low productivity, that we can use technology AI to increase it, and also limited market access. And so with this with this new technique, we hope that the smallholder farmers can get access to financing, can get insurance, that's the financing part. You can use technology, new techniques of alternate wetting and drying to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 50% and to reduce water by 25%. And then we are helping farmers learn, besides the traditional way of farming, how to be more scientific, data-driven, and even thinking about MRV, so that later on when Indonesia is ready for the carbon market, you can think about carbon credits with the paddy fields to add additional revenue. So I think that gives a bit of flavor between technology and nature-based and the kind of emerging capabilities.
Thank you. Ibu Maki, you want to add to this? By the way, if any one of you want to ask a question, you can scan the QR behind me. I think they're going to put it up at some point, and then we'll take your questions at the end of the discussions. Ibu Maki, please.
Thank you very much, Pak Dino, and thank you. Just to probably build on the previous response, and I think this is a really excellent question, giving us some direction on this discussion panel. And in our office, we often joke that if anyone can bring a solution for transforming our economy today to a green economy, I think this person should actually get a Nobel Prize in peace and economics. But so actually trying to highlight the fact that it's a very important question, but a very difficult one. And for the UN, we actually have some studies that actually tells us that, today, half of the current jobs around the world will probably disappear by 2050. And then today, 60% of the children who are entering primary school today, they will be likely working in jobs that do not exist today at all. So, of course, for us, it's probably just not about the green economy per se. It's not just about green, but we also have to think about industry or economy that is more socially and culturally inclusive and environmentally sustainable. And also for that, it requires a lot of human capabilities, which I think it's like human capabilities, bring a combination of technical, analytical, ethical, and empathetical attitude. So it's not just about the cognitive knowledge, in subject matters, but we also have to see more holistic individuals with skills that can bring us and transform into a green economy. And I think there's really 3 sets of kind of skills that are really required from our perspective. And one is more to do with human skill. Sorry, excuse me, there's an ant on my chair. So really, we'll really depend on a lot of human skills, leadership, teamwork, agility, motivation, self-awareness. And these are basically multidisciplinary capabilities or skills that really lead us to manage into a new kind of economy as well. Then when it comes to green economy in particular, I think we need professionals that are experts in green infrastructure and, as Pak Bung was saying, nature-based solutions. Of course, our work, part of our work, UNESCO's work, is really about nurturing and supporting and capacity building and expertise in ecological management and education for sustainable development. So we really focus on how we can bring the skills to manage, urban flooding, improve water quality, and enhance resilience of the people. And the third area I think would be very critical now and increasingly important is the skills to understand data. And data science and data literacy skills are critical because we really have to be able to address the environmental issues and their impact on society. For example, we can address water-related challenges by having stronger capacities in data collection, remote sensing, modeling, and interpreting the data, which will allow industries and decision makers to adapt to the changing environment quickly. And through our work, for example, we try to support governments and countries through our intergovernmental hydrological program that we have in freshwater management. In that program, we also focus a lot on data literacy, numerous skills, and also to use that for critically assessing the environment and how that impacts on the economy overall. So maybe I'll stop here. Thank you.
You know, Ibu Maki, I'm 60 years old and I have very few of those skills that you mentioned. So I'm getting quite scared, seriously, right? It's quite worried. Some people are excited, some people are scared. Maybe it's just natural to have a feeling of both there. But I want to ask Pat Spencer from Google APAC, what practical steps and success examples show how companies can address these issues and build on these capabilities? Yeah.
Thanks for that excellent question. And first of all, terima kasih, Pak Dino, as well as to ISF for the invitation to be part of this panel. That question really gets the heart of what the sustainability transition is. It's as much a people challenge as it is a technology or a policy challenge. And I really want to build on what Hayashikawa-san said, which is, you really need to look at those skills, and to address that, you need to take a multi-pronged approach and not just think about ad hoc training. You have to think of systemic change. So I think there are 3 practical steps that I'd just like to point out today. First is, how can you make the skills that you need to teach modular and therefore scalable? Because that's what's needed now. The transition to a sustainable economy demands new skills, as we've heard from my other panelists, and particularly from our perspective in data analytics, in AI, and project management with a sustainability focus. So companies must offer training that is not only accessible, but also relevant, and that can be integrated into today's workforce. We don't have time to wait. So a couple of examples. One, at Google, we offer the Google Career Certificates, which are self-paced, online training programs in high-demand areas like data analytics and project management. And we've integrated sustainability specializations. And some of these we co-created with Arizona State University, so that we make sure these new skills are immediately available to green jobs. Now, what about in Indonesia? In Indonesia, we're very proud to be part of the Bangkit Academy, which is a multi-stakeholder collaboration between government, industry, and research and universities, including Goto, Tokopedia, and Traveloka. So what this academy does is that it trains thousands of students in high-caliber technical skills like cloud and machine learning. And they work on capstone projects that often focus on national challenges, solving national challenges, including the environment and sustainability. And so this feeds skilled talent directly into the local green economy. And so these are examples of how you can do efficient corporate reskilling. A second key practical step is deeper industry and academia partnership. Because sustainability problems are complex and they require not just cutting edge, but more importantly, locally relevant research. And so Google partners with universities and research institutions globally to apply AI and cloud technology to sustainability problems, like, for example, low carbon building techniques for data centers. But in Indonesia, we're very, very honored to have launched the AI Policy and Skilling Lab. And this was with the Indonesia AI Research and Innovation Collaboration called KORIKA, and the Center for Digital Society, and the University of Gajah Mada. And what this lab does is that it trains civil servants in the fundamentals of AI, including applications for national priorities like sustainability and disaster response. So this ensures that the private sector and government are speaking the same technical language, which are skills that you need to have. And I just want to congratulate the AI Policy and Skilling Lab. Earlier this year, they won the nomination for Enabling Environment Prize at the World Summit on the Information Society, which is organized by the United Nations International Telecommunication Union. So congratulations to them. And just a quick last point, which is, in order to have impact, you need to actually have that culture shift inside companies. And so, for example, at Google, we have data centers, but we also manufacture and sell Nest thermostats and Pixel cell phones. So it's we've really taken steps to ensure that the circular economy is something that we work hard on. So we've redesigned products and supply chains to ensure that components are refurbished, reused, recycled, etc. And this was part of a cultural shift about how do you design out waste that becomes a core mandate. So this is, again, an example of all the types of skilling and culture shifts that ensures that sustainability becomes a competitive advantage, even at a national level. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, I'm pleased to announce also in the 2029 presidential elections, AI will be running for presidential candidate. Yeah, so just for you to know. Okay. All right. All right. You get that joke, all right? Sondang, please. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share with you the concrete example of what Schneider Electric do, right? So for us, sustainability is at the center of our strategy. So no doubt that every year, every time, the people capability, digital capability, mindset, etc., is so critical for us. So if we talk about what is the measure to build the capability, etc., it all starts from the hiring, right? We need to hire the people, the talent with the curiosity mindset, with growth mindset, with learning agility. Good thing is if it's digital native. So usually it's a Gen Z, right? We call them digital native, right? So that's the basic ingredient that we need. Then from there we build the capability, the competency that we need. And in Schneider, I noticed that we have run, we call it digital booster assessment, right? Every year. This year is the 6th year that we do it globally, run it to everyone. So everyone do a kind of a self-assessment where they are in terms of digital capability. So they are usually about 100 short question, divided into like 6 topics, AI la, cyber security la, etc., right? Other than that, also every year Schneider always publish. Of course, every year we have a hero offer, so-called. Usually, this offer our product that is contribute directly to the sustainability. Yeah, like for example, like switch breaker that is actually air insulated, right, rather than the gas SF6 insulated, right? So we do intensive training for not just our sales team or product team, but also to like enablement function like me, in HR, right? So the intention is for everyone to understand the product and where actually in concrete way we understand the company take part, into it, right? And one more thing that we also do concretely is to our surrounding community, where we do run yearly, we do hackathon of to the vocational school, usually like University Polytechnic Jakarta and in several cities, and we do a hackathon for them to compete to come up with a PLC innovative PLC design. Yeah, so the intention is to also contribute to the young generation, to train them, to challenge them, and then after that, we can adopt their result, as one of the innovative partnership between us and the university. So I think that's basically what I can share. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ibu Sondang. Pak Abednego, you want to add to what Ibu Sondang just said?
Yes, thank you, Pak Dino. TBI is working actually with the political leader around the world. Now we are operating in 40 countries around the world and with the 900 people working in TBI. And based on our experience, at least last 3 years, the technology is very important, especially AI. Like some of our projects, like in Africa, how helping the government in there, security digital dashboard for the government partners, to enable the government to make evidence-based policy intervention to improve food security. And the impact is very significant. 12.5 million farmers, smallholder farmers, get the significant impact. And the second, also our experience related to Indonesia. For examples, like we are now working with the National Institute for the Administrations, how to strengthening capacity of the civil servant related to the AI. almost 1,000 people already on the training. And based on this experience also is very important for us to aware the AI and digital is not only for the increased productivity, but to make it more capacity of the workers in the complex situations. Because like previous speakers mentioned about the climate change, about the transition energy, it's very complex. So it's not only how to increase the productivity, but how to make it more important role of the workers in the complex situations. So that's very important for us to see how the shift paradigm, not only the responsibility of the business, but also how is the government involved on this process. We are talking many related to digital infrastructure, digital services, but how about the digital talent? So this also is really neat. We are invest more on digital talent, especially like in Indonesia, we are very diverse. West and East is very different, not only about the capacity, but also about the infrastructure. So this is from our experience. So your question about the remote area. Last year, we are with the partnership with the IKN, the Authority of the Capital Nusantara, and Starlink, how to using the technology to access the primary healthcare, to access even in the remote, because not infrastructure in there, but through technology, the access to the health sector is improved. So this is what we experience is very important, how to also really bring the governments and the industry together, I mean, to improve the digital talent, not only the quality, but also the quantity in terms of the Indonesia, Badino. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe I want to ask Ibu Maki to add to the question of what approach can ensure equitable access to green skills across regions, because there's huge gap between availability of resources in major urban areas and those who live in remote areas where there's no electricity and no digital access and so on. Yeah. So how do we?
Well, thank you for that question, very briefly, but I know that the question is also how to reach the most remote and areas that may have no infrastructures and availability. But I think before even talking about that, how to ensure green skills for everyone, it's really for us, it's education and training. Yeah. And it's quite shocking, actually, to see, to learn that around the world, like UNESCO has a study that was carried out around, the level of integration of science education, climate literacy. 53% of national education curricula, only 53% of education curricula mention climate change today. Yeah, and then fewer than 40% of teachers, they feel comfortable talking about or teaching about climate change. So, which means that we also have to really look into the education system, what's happening before we can really ensure access to green skill, which is a lot more complex area that we're talking about. But I think we do have to start from the foundation. And so we are actually promoting the importance and the urgent need to integrate science, technology, and sustainability more effectively into teaching and learning at all levels. And given that, especially in our region, primary education has very large accessibility today, thankfully. Our countries, in particular in Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific generally, have really good participation and access to primary education. So I think that would be a key to ensure that we integrate, the skills and knowledge necessary for enhancing green skills in primary and foundational learning at the beginning. That would be the starting point. But then, of course, if you think of reaching the remote in those areas that are less connected, I think we still can exploit or exploit the digital platforms that have been made available to us. I have to say that the world have really learned well from the COVID incident, the pandemic. I have to say Google has been one of the major partners to UNESCO in ensuring accessibility during the COVID times, so that learning does not stop. The continuity of learning was very critical at that time. So in many countries, we do have some modalities of distance learning, whether online or offline, actually. So that could be really a resource that we should really take advantage of to ensure that everyone has better access to the skills that are needed for ensuring a green economy transformation. We can also see that, like low tech, can we say low tech? Mobile phones and radios are probably low tech technology. These still really play a big role in many countries, and I think we need to really leverage this mobile technology, community radios, and local broadcasting. And for UNESCO, we also work with local universities, community colleges, youth organizations to ensure that education, learning activities are reaching those who are the least accessed by the formal systems. It's really difficult to reach out to the remaining 20-30% because in many of our countries in the region, particularly Indonesia, I understand that now 60% of the population are urban. And this will increase to 65% in 10 years' time, and another 70% of the people will be in the urban areas in 2045. So I think the focus isn't necessarily just in the remote areas. Of course, we also have to ensure good infrastructure in the urban areas as well. And for that, I think we really have to engage the communities and to understand what their needs are in order to ensure that we have equitable access to the skill set that they would need to transform into the economy that we hope will be more sustainable and green. And just one last point I would like to add is that for UNESCO, we have this whole designated site called the UNESCO Biosphere Reserves and also UNESCO Global Geoparks. And these are really real-world learning hubs that we can engage communities, conduct ecological education, green entrepreneurships. And we know that these areas can also demonstrate local knowledge combined with global expertise to reinforce each other and to enhance the accessibility to the different knowledge that is probably not taught in universities such, but available as really a credible skill set to ensure green and sustainable economy. So.
Okay, thank you. Ibu Indri, there's a tough competition for talent, obviously. From your experience, you are at DCI, what corporate and policy measures are most effective in retaining top sustainability and digital talent? Yeah.
Thank you, Dino. Adding to Ibu, the first that I actually support is actually that it is requiring a synchronized approach from all the sectors, government, educational institutions, the businesses, and also the community services. In terms of the policies and the practices and the measures that is important, at DCI, the average age is less than 30. We have quite a small number of people, which is not more than 200, but most of them are from SMK, Pak. So we hire SMK, but why they can work in our environment, high demanding environment, is because they are helped by the technology. Given that the workforce for technology and as well as sustainability, those who has the passion and those who are actually mandated to bring it going forward is from the younger generation. So the policies of the companies need to be aligned to what they are looking at, what is important for this generation rather than for the old generations. We at DCI keep our sustainability talent and digital talents, which is not much, by promoting actually purpose, growth, empowerment, and recognition. So it's entirely different from the old HR school of thought. Yeah. The purpose is basically we have to be able to show clear impact. For instance, when they are doing predictive maintenance, we have to tell them, to show to them that the result is actually at a lower power usage and lower emission. Looking at the result, it will like motivating them to do more. In terms of growth, we offer upskilling opportunities, cross-project assignments, like engineers working in an AI energy saving efficiency project, or engineers joining in so engineers doing the sustainability projects. By doing this in a project environment, their knowledge, their paradigm will be changed. So in the absence of formal training, we actually put our people into the real work. The empowerment, we gave space for them for innovation. Pilots, flexible work and develop green solution. So when you're talking about space, it's about time allocated. It's about where they want to do the work, how they want to do it. But we also recognize solutions that they come up with. And for that, we reward innovation handsomely. So that is it training? Is it actually a development plan? But it's not training per se. Training per se, we actually depends much more from organization like Google to help us. But the way we see it, that people is eager to even learn by themselves to help them in the job. So it does not necessary that the company is providing it, but providing the information about what training is available where. This is something that is also needs to be embedded in our HR operations. Yeah. As an example, in DCI, yeah, AI-driven predictive maintenance have proven to reduce energy waste and lower emissions, and also it's lowering downtime. At the same time, it also upskill our engineers from reactive task, technically reactive task, to data-driven optimization. Continuous capability building by transforming operational data into insights, which actually guide the teams towards smarter, more efficient, and also more sustainability-aligned decisions. Yeah. Decision is quite pushed down, actually. But of course, for huge investment, we still need to talk to the CEO. Yeah. So increasing operational efficiency is depending much more on the system. So we are not going into like enlarging our workforce, except when the facility is expanding. But we tend to rely on technology to help us pushing through and meet all the challenges. And the customers are now is much more demanding because they are more aware. Yeah. So that is my sharing from DCI Indonesia. We are a data center co-location provider, providing hosting for cloud data servers, with doing a lot with cooling system and energy consumption as well. So that's from me.
Thank you. I'm going to take one question from the audience before we continue because we have 5 minutes left. So the question is, how can, and any one of you can answer this, how can we guarantee that the integration of AI into green job creation does not end up displacing human labor and worsening unemployment? Anyone? Sondang, please.
Yeah, I will try to answer that. In my point of view, I think AI will not, I think this is we have to reframe the perspective, right? AI will not take as is, right? The job, but they need, because of AI, we need another type of job. Yeah, so that's my perspective, right? Because then we need to have someone, you know, in the past we need someone to do the data entry, for example, the basic competency, right? But then with AI, then we need someone to operate, to program the AI to enable AI to do the job. That's my point of view.
Yeah, Spencer, you want to answer that?
I completely agree with what Ibu Sondang said. AI will require new skills. And so to the extent that
require what?
New skills.
New skills.
New jobs which require new skills. And so will there be disruption? Yes. Every new sort of technology over the centuries has disrupted jobs as they were. But experience shows that people then acquire new skills and there are new jobs created. And as you pointed out, Pak Dino, the key challenge is how do you as a society, as a system, as a company, ensure that you mobilize to allow those skills to be acquired by the people that need it so that they can move to new roles. And that's a challenge. And I think the question suggests that there are skeptics, because it's not easy, but that's the challenge of the day.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Dino. Yes, like before I already said that we are not only talking about the efficiency, we are not only talking about to reduce the number of the workers, but also we are talking about the value of the workers itself. Like our experience with the LAN, Lembaga Administrasi Negara, when we, with Politika, we make a training for almost 1,000 civil servants, they more and more want to get a new subject in terms of digital and artificial intelligence. Like Ibu said this, don't underestimate of the willingness and the motivation of the people to learn new things. Yeah, so we are always talking about efficiency and then reduce number of the workers. No. Very strong also the motivations of many peoples. They want to learn the new skills, how they are more value in their company or in the governments. So this is like, and the second, for example, is like our experience in Africa, when we working, we using the remote sensing with the high quality remote sensing data, and then also real time to make it more, the better policy, how we tackle the climate change and etc. There's also the farmers can join with that programs. If you look from the perspective, the infrastructures in there, how about their background education will be difficult. They'll be part of the project. But at the end, 12.5 million people involved on it. Same like my generation, it's difficult to imagine like today that the people, even my mom, 85 years today, and we just celebrate in the morning for her birthday, is still using the tablet to using, to see the news and etc. So we are very open on this. I think from our experience, there is also new opportunity. With the other side, there is this disrupted. Yes, we are very significant, but we need to mitigate and then still to continue to open opportunity for the peoples who are working in the governments, working in the private sector, even working in the informal sectors.
Pak Bun, go ahead.
Yeah, just quick one. One minister told me that, and I remember, the human touch is therapeutic. So you can never replace the human touch. That's first thing. The second thing is change is always difficult, but change is necessary for us to progress ahead. And then the third thing, I just want to share a Singapore model. When that change comes, in Singapore, there's a concept called tripartism. That means the government work together with the company, work together with the workers. And the three parties, tripartism, co-design, don't just look at today, look at the future, co-design it. And in Singapore also, the government sets aside money to help the organization, the company to move, to help the workers to transit with new skills as well. And then the last point I wanted to say, with change, leadership is very important. So if you spend time on the leaders, you help them see things, then they can motivate and they can lead their people.
Yeah. Spencer, you want to add something?
Yes, I just wanted to add 2 points. One is, while AI is creating this disruption, it's also a tool to help accelerate curriculum change and the delivery of skills. So it's a double-edged sword, but you have to make sure that you use its powers to help scale faster acquisition of knowledge by knowing what to teach, when to teach, to whom to teach, and this is all something that AI can help accelerate. The second point I'd like to make, though, is just building on Abid's point that younger people don't estimate their thirst to learn. I think that is a really major advantage for Indonesia. As Pak Dino said, Indonesia is young, and it has a huge number of digital natives. So I think that thirst for hunger, let's meet that, and that is the opportunity for Indonesia.
Yeah, I remember when I first used to write with the typewriter, and then that was when the computer age came, the laptop, right? And I was a bit scared because laptops were expensive, and I did not know how to use it. But once we learned how to use the laptop and editing, productivity rose dramatically, right? And I think everyone has to get used to the idea that AI will multiply your productivity. But you know, there's also a dark side to AI, right? I'm into strategic affairs, and the greatest worry is the use of AI in military technology, for example. So AI will be making, the fears AI will be making decisions on who to bomb and who not to bomb, and that becomes a very inhuman process, right? So is there any, how do we ward off the dark side of AI in this green transition? I know that's not an easy question, but anyone want to take that up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the perfect
We should
answer.
think about that, obviously,
we should think
right?
about
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
indeed. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, for me, I think, you know, maybe because of our nature of work, I mean, it comes down to education as well. And yeah, I mean, as we had just heard from my colleagues here, and AI, first of all, of course, is bringing a lot of challenges to all the sectors, you know, that we live in, and especially for education. But one thing I can also add on is that AI cannot replace a teacher, right? So because education is all about human interaction, it's all about nurturing social emotional skill sets, empathy. These are things that, as Pak Boon was saying, that cannot be replaced by AI. But at the same time, AI brings tremendous opportunities for education as well. But yet, the teachers also have to know how to make that, you know, AI useful for themselves. So I think the critical part, you know, making sure that AI does not go beyond our control is to train and educate the current generation, but also the current generation, older generation as well, and also to train the teachers with the right skills they need to be able to make good use of the AI themselves. And also, I mean, the platforms offered by AI technology is also a really very important resources for education, learning, and training. As you know, I mean, today the young people in Indonesia, about 80% are actually online all the time, and that will be the main source of information and resources. So, I mean, not to leave it to anyone to provide any content, but I think we also have some regulation, also good partners to see what kind of content will be useful for educating our population more broadly. Not education in terms of school education, but broadly in terms of what kind of skills and knowledge and attitude behaviors are required. And these social media platforms can be utilized for our benefit as well, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. You know what my greatest fear is? Me being a climate activist, right? And sincerely, my greatest fear, if all the things that we do, 198 countries, companies, cities, individuals, will only be incremental steps towards the huge, faraway goal of net zero world, rather than transformational, right? You know, we save a little emission here and there. You know, I buy electric cars, right? But somebody else in Arizona buy a huge pickup truck, which negates my emission savings, right? I go to a hotel and I go, the card is green, you know. Yeah, small things, cute and meaningful, but incremental and not enough to achieve that huge net zero target by 2050. So the big question is, will AI, which is exponential phenomenon, will AI help us get there in a scenario whereby incremental changes will just not get us to that end? Yeah. So what would be the answer to that? Yeah.
If I may offer a couple of points, I think a lot of research is being done in that area, and actually without, it's about to be released, but there's a major study with a European university that we've been working with, specifically looking at how AI can accelerate the challenges and the science behind climate action and climate change and sustainability more broadly. So the best minds are on it. In fact, next year there's the AI Impact Summit that India will be hosting. And it will be putting a spotlight on the challenges in the global south in terms of how you can harness AI for sustainable development. So I think what you raise is top of mind for many people, but it's going to take a concerted effort to ensure we can answer that. The second point is...
Sorry, so is the answer yes or no? Well, AI, so you're saying that AI is looking into this?
That people are, that the best minds around the world are actively looking at how you harness AI to solve these problems from a systems perspective through fundamental changes in science and design. You can be. I'm tech optimist, and I believe that with the right level of effort around the world, there will be solutions.
Okay, so you wanted to mention the second point, Spencer?
Yes, and in terms of the actual decarbonization to a net zero world, a major challenge is the energy system. If you can solve the decarbonization of the energy system, you're actually a big way to net zero. And this is where we're increasingly seeing that AI can play a really critical role in driving the decarbonization of energy systems from transmission, generation, new technologies, grid optimization. So this is something that's actually showing real results today.
Okay.
No, I'm optimistic. Interconnectivity, network, I think AI will help us to go faster, go wider, and go deeper. So I think it's an exponential, so I'm optimistic.
But would that be on the technology side? Because
of course, you have to complement it with people. Yeah. You have to, if you leave it AI, you can't. And of people, I think leaders, especially political leaders, business leaders, are very important.
Yeah, just go a bit more deeper into that, Boon. Yes, you have great AI, and you fix the technological problems and so on. But you got leaders who say, no, I don't get elected with green promise on climate change. I want to get elected on other issues. And they become populist, and they drive away from. So that's a problem, right? AI will get us some answers, technical answers, but the real driver will be political decisions by the leaders at the top.
So I come back again. The planet is intimately intertwined with the people, which is intimately intertwined with prosperity, whether at the individual level or at the country level. So I think the overall business model of how to make companies, countries prosperous so that everybody can be more equitable, I think that's very important.
Yes. Please.
But, I want to add the perspective from the policy-making process, but in terms of the climate, it's very complex. If you look policy in Indonesia itself, maybe hundreds of policy, from law to presidential regulations, keputusan menteri, and etc. My experience, AI is helping me to understand what is the contradiction one policy with another policy, how to make it more synchronized. Because one of the big problem in terms of, like a climate, in many cases, one policy is opposite with others policy. At least policymakers using the AI can helping them to see what is the gap, what is the problem, what is the contradiction, how we moving forward like Indonesians target on the NDC, for example. So, not on the technical aspect, maybe from industry is more related to the CO2 emission and etc. But in the policy making process also, from our experience and perspective, is very important how is we bring AI into that process.
But yes.
Yes.
Can I just add something? I was at the World Health Assembly, and in the assembly, and many global leaders say that somebody withdrew support to the WHO, but we are here. So I'm just going to say that there may be naysayers, but you have people who are strong advocates and supporters of it. And if you look at Indonesia as an example, the ISF, the Indonesia Sustainability Forum, is already testament. And Indonesia has huge potential. And in Southeast Asia and Asia, if Indonesia takes leadership, and you have more leaders coming on board to do better in this area, I think we have a good future ahead.
Yeah. For the sake of debate, right? For the sake of debate, there is an interesting phenomenon now. In parts of Europe, you can't get elected unless you have a climate agenda, because the constituents are very green, yeah? So in many of these places, but some parts in Europe, that doesn't work anymore. In the United States, you have a president who campaigned on the basis that I'm going to pull out of Paris Treaty, and he gets elected, right? In Indonesia, again, I'm in the spirit of being honest, no candidate at the national or provincial level will win votes by saying, hey, my number one agenda is climate. Because people are saying, no, it's jobs, and they don't associate jobs with climate as yet, right? So how do we change that political calculus and make sure at the top and at the people level, they're all aligned in terms of energy transition and climate agenda, and also digital agenda as well. Right. Yeah, please.
I'll just jump in.
And by the way, in most of Southeast Asia, no one really campaigns on the basis of a climate agenda to get votes, right? Yeah.
I would like to add that I have the privilege of being the head of the Asia Pacific region, so I travel and listen to leaders from across the region, including India and Japan, and what I do hear in this part of the world is that there is a recognition that you have to transition to a more sustainable future, but in so doing, that is an opportunity for economic growth and development. And so it's not one or the other, it's how that transition actually enables a more sustainable, more prosperous future. And that is very clear in terms of expression, even in Japan with the GX, the green transformation. It's a very clear point of view from the Singapore government, from the Malaysian government, and even from the Indian government. They see the energy transition, the sustainable transition as a job creator, as a driver of national development. And I think increasingly we're hearing that even here in Indonesia. Based on some of the presentations by ministers here at ISF yesterday morning, for example. So I think it's not an either or, it's how do you not so much subordinate one to the other, but they're the flip side of the same coin.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone want to add to that?
When I started in sustainability at Temasek in 2015, it was a career-ending job. Nobody wanted that job. And my own reflection is that when in my first few years, my very quick conclusion or reflection after taking on a job is that climate change is an existential threat, right? It is an existential threat, and education and awareness and bringing that up is so important. My own experience is that I was in Switzerland in one of the slopes sledging down. Between 5 years, the first year I had snow sledging down. 5 years later, I was at the same place, almost at the same time, there was no snow. So climate change in Europe is visual. But in Southeast Asia, you increase degrees by half a degree, 1 degree, you just run into an air-conditioned room. You don't feel it, but actually it is an existential threat. I had a friend also with me, and I said, hey, do you remember about 20 years ago, temperature in Singapore was like 28 degrees. And now it's like 33 to 35. So it rose about 8 degrees over 20 years. And this person happens to be dean of one of the university, one of the schools. He told me, Boon, it is in our textbook, it was said that the normal temperature in Singapore was 28 degrees. And so if you don't do anything about it, right, then it's the parable of the boiling frog. We will slowly be boiled to our end. But having reflected it also from 21.5 to 2025, when in 21.5 people see ESG, see climate change as a burden to investment. Today people are talking about impact investment, climate technology, sustainable agriculture, as we see. So I think that's why I come back again. It is not just about the planet. Climate change has a prosperity story, has an investment story, has an economic story.
Yeah, I think the challenge is really how do we create a powerful narrative that can convince our leaders as well as the business and the people. And I think we all need to do a better job. And especially in Indonesia, you know what is the best narrative? The scare tactics. If you just say climate change is going to be important for our future, blah, blah, you don't get the response that you need. But if you scare them, right, that's what works. The Vice President Yusuf Kala said, Indonesian mindset is we need to see bodies on the street, people dying, before they actually move into action. And there's a lot of truth in it. A lot of people don't think preemptively. A lot of people don't think, a lot of nations don't think proactively. They think and act only when the worst happens, right? So I don't know if you have any comment on that, you know, yeah. But do you see that a lot of these things are happening in many countries? The tendency to think the worst only when it happens rather than preemptively.
Thank you, Pak Dino. This is interesting question.
So we're going off script, by the way, guys. We're going
totally
off script. But
around 2 or 3 months ago, one research institution asking me to review one of their research about the democracy, environment, and the economy. One the important finding that in terms of the environment and climate, Pak Dino, this also is like what to say, linked to the income per capita. So that's also in reality in our country. So related on that, it's very important for the leaders, for scholars, many scholars here, to convince our leaders that it's very important. Yes, our main issue is job creations, but how put the climate issue in the job creations process? Yeah, if you look at our midterm national development planning, always there about the environment, about the climate, but how to helping our leaders. So that's why, like TBI, we are working hard to support our Indonesian governments and many countries in the world, how to make sure, even they are not direct working on the climate, but how is in their main agenda also include about the sustainability and how do we tackle the climate change. Yeah,
okay. Well, look, I see my boss, Anindya Bakri, who's here, chairman of Kadin. I'll share something with you, and please comment on this. I'm also a member of Kadin, yeah? The Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. But even when we have discussions about, look, the future is green jobs and green growth, right? A number of our members of entrepreneurs who are on the ground, they're saying, but you know, we're not seeing that. Where's the proof? Yeah, in Indonesia context, yeah, maybe in Europe context it's different, yeah. Where is the proof that green jobs are going to be everywhere, or are everywhere? Because they're not seeing that as yet on the ground, you know, among the entrepreneurs that are, again, members of Kadin, right? So again, how do we convince them? Look, you cite Maki, what do you call it? Interesting statistics, right? 50% of jobs in the future will be this and that, right? But the reality is, again, Kadin members, a number of Kadin members are saying, where's the proof here? We're not seeing that, gitu, yeah. So what is the answer to that, yeah? Anyone? Again, we go on totally off script, guys.
I mentioned,
yes.
I mentioned about the steward leadership, which I think it's sponsored by Temasek Foundation. I've been in one of the talk before, and actually it is educating the business owners and the top management on the value of steward leadership, which is basically taking care of the planet. So it's a big, it's a noble intent. Such question will not be answered that way if all of our business leaders are actually have that value within them. So it's a value development, which is, in my view, it's a government, how government build that, involve them and make them aware, and probably also from Ibu Maki.
Yeah, and also to add on, right? So like what Pak Dino mentioned, right? That maybe, I think not just Indonesian people, but I think all other human, if they don't know, they don't exactly can imagine the impact, right? Then we need to show it vividly to them that this is the impact, creating the burning platform. I think creating this burning platform will create the urgency. Then I agree, it starts from the government, from the top, and then, you know, go down.
And I'd like to add that it really boils down to strategic thinking as well. Because I'm Canadian, and there's a famous quote from Wayne Gretzky: "You don't want to skate to where the puck is, you want to skate to where the puck is going to be." And I think when it comes to green jobs, in terms of differentiation and competitive advantage, it's not here now, but that's where the puck is now. But you have to think about where the puck is going. And it's a matter of thresholds. So at Google, we have what we look every year at search trends. And what we're finding over the last 2 years, if you look at what's trending in terms of search terms in Southeast Asia, increasingly you're starting to see climate change, typhoons, extreme heat. It's coming up. Yes, you still see Taylor Swift and soccer up there, number 1 or 2, but that trend is there. So I think it's a matter of thresholds. So I think it's really important for the strategic leaders to think about that direction of travel.
Well, this has been a fascinating discussion. I think my only conclusion, I hope that globally we're scared enough, but imaginative enough to create the future that we need. And we don't have any other option. There's no planet B. And this is the only window, the next 10 years, to achieve that net zero world. And AI is the tool that probably is the godsend that we need to achieve that net zero world. Yeah. So thank you very much. Let's give a big hand to all the panelists. Yeah. Good. I give it back to the MC. Yeah.
Thank you, Bapak Dino. Very fascinating panel indeed. And I congratulate all speakers for graduating from that panel, moderated by Bapak Dino Patijalal. And I invite everyone to please stand up for a photo opportunity. Don't forget to smile. Interesting discussion. Yes, net zero is somewhat is a destination, and we do not expect that to happen in 1 or 2 days or maybe 1 or 2 years, but we have to be in it, and AI is enabling us to get there hopefully sooner. Once again, thank you, speakers. Thank you, Bapak Dino, moderator. You may all return to your seats. We still have agenda this afternoon. It is indeed a very productive Saturday for all of us, a sustainable Saturday indeed. So we do hope that everyone follows our agenda until the end of today, which is the last day of ISF 2025, and to also make us see our future generations. Now we've brought students as well to this forum. So once again, I would like to present to all of you this choir, Kilau Vokalia Dian Didaktika. Big applause, please, for them.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna set a floor, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. shot, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. This is me. And I know that I deserve your love. There's nothing I want than you. Ooh, this is me. Da-da, 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 this is me. This is me. This is me.
Big applause, please, for Kila Focalia, Dian Didaktika. Thank you very much, dear friends, for your charming performance. Yes, and everyone, we still have some agendas, so please be seated. We still have a keynote speech and also a fireside chat that will happen after this. So we invite everyone to maybe extend your networking while sitting down. Hopefully that's possible. So next after this, we are going to follow a fireside chat, making green transition work for people and economy, a collaboration between WEF and Bapanas. And to set the tone for that fire chat, we will also have a keynote speech as well on the topic of building human capital for a sustainable future, creating green jobs in the age of AI. And before that, please allow me to invite you to pay attention to the screen for a journey of ISF 2025.
The world is evolving, bringing new challenges alongside new opportunities. With a growing population, the demand for food, water, energy, and meaningful employment continues to rise. As pressures on our planet increase, so does the shared responsibility to respond with urgency and cooperation. For many years, fossil fuels have been the foundation of our development. Yet the consequences are clear: increasing emissions, urban pollution, deforestation, and impacts on communities. The climate crisis is no longer a distant concern. It is a present reality, demanding immediate attention. We recognize the need for change, while also striving for growth that is inclusive, equitable, and sustainable. Across the archipelago, Indonesia is undergoing transformation. With strong determination, the nation is embracing a new era of sustainable development. President Prabowo reaffirmed Indonesia's commitment to building a sustainable, inclusive, and resilient future.
We are committed to meeting our 2015 Paris Agreement obligations. We aim to achieve net zero emission by 2060, and we are very confident we can achieve net zero emission much earlier. We aim to reforest more than 12 million hectares of degraded forest, to reduce forest degradation, to empower local communities with quality green jobs for the future. Indonesia is shifting decisively from fossil fuel-based development towards renewable-based development. From next year, most of our additional power generation capacity will come from renewables. Our goal is clear: to lift all of our citizens out of poverty and make Indonesia a hub for solutions to food, energy, and water security.
This commitment is reflected here at the Indonesia International Sustainability Forum, where ideas grow into solutions and challenges become opportunities. Together, communities, innovators, and leaders are planting seeds of hope for a better tomorrow. Every seed we plant today is a promise for tomorrow, because the future is something we build together for the next generation.
Yes, that was a video about ISF, and please, ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome as well the Minister of Manpower of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Yasirli, and he's already here among us. Thank you very much, Minister, for attending this forum. And ladies and gentlemen, we would like to have this opportunity as well to thank our sponsors for their invaluable support and partnership in advancing in the sustainability agenda. So our sincere gratitude goes to the platinum sponsors, Sinarmas and PT Pertamina Persero. We also extend the appreciation to our gold sponsors, PT Astra International Tbk, to our silver sponsors, Standard Chartered Bank, Lubrizol, Vale Base Metals, April Group, and Freeport Indonesia. Thank you to your continued commitment and collaboration. And of course to our bronze sponsors as well, DBS Bank, PT BYD Motor Indonesia, PT Bank HSBC Indonesia, Siemens Energy, PT Bank Rakyat Indonesia Persero, Tbk, Aqua Power Global Service LLC, PT Bank Mandiri Persero, Chandra Asri Pacific, PT Bank Negara Indonesia, Persero Mind ID, PT Medco Energi Internasional, Tbk, PT Alamitri Power Indonesia, PT TBS Energi Utama Tbk, and PT PLN Persero. Thank you very much once again for your support, our sponsors. And now, ladies and gentlemen, something that we look forward, we would like to call for all this fire chat to talk on making the green transition work for people and economy, a collaboration between WEF and Bappenas. And to have an introduction to this session, we would like to invite to the stage Ms. Filia Wibowo, partner and leader of the Southeast Asia People and Organizational Performance Practice at McKinsey & Company. Let's greet her with a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us at the end of this exciting International Indonesia Sustainable Forum. With this, I am privileged to be able to moderating a bit of a fireside chat and a little bit of an introduction of something for Indonesia. I would like to invite the speakers of today. First, I would like to invite our Minister of Manpower, Pak Yasirli, to join us on stage. Pak Yasirli, if I could invite you to join us on stage. Thank you. In this discussion, Pak Menteri will give us a keynote later, but also inviting to join us today, if I could invite Ibu Shinta Kamdani, Chairman of APindo, who's also the co-chair of these accelerators. You will hear about it a bit more. Pak Anindya Bakri, President Director of Bakri Group and also Chairman of Kadin Indonesia. Thank you, Pak Anin. Pak Maliki, Deputy Minister from Bappenas for Community Empowerment, Population and Manpower. who's representing the Secretariat of the Accelerator. And if I could also invite Ibu Tarini Fernando, who's representing the World Economic Forum for the Center of Economic and Society, who's helping Indonesia pioneering this one. Pa Yasari, if I could invite you to open with a keynote first.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to say hello to all guests, especially Your Excellencies Bapak Rahmat Kaimuddin, Bapak Anindya Bakti, Ibu Simta Kamdani, and also the MC or the host, Ibu Filia Wibowo, and all guests, ladies and gentlemen, participants in Indonesia International Sustainability Forum 2025. It is a great honor for me to be here to share a little bit about Ministry of Manpower's perspective about Green Jobs agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with the importance of green jobs and skills that I think that everybody in this room is already aware. Next. There is a report mentioning about if there is no mitigation taken, there will be a reduction. Slide, please. There will be a reduction of the world's GDP about 18% in the next 30 years. It is equal about USD 38 trillion US dollar global damage per year. I think that's the number is quite high. And Indonesia itself has committed to achieve net zero emission by 2060, or at least at that year, and hopefully will be earlier than that year, and also commitment for reducing greenhouse gas emission by about 32% by 2030, compared to the business as usual scenario. I think and we believe that this transition will not only succeed if our people will only succeed if our people is ready. So that's for Ministry of Manpower has also a commitment to have the program about upskilling and reskilling at least 1 million people per year until 2029. We are also integrating green jobs into our National Development Plan, revising competency standards or SKKNE, and strengthening community-based training centers or BLK community to provide green skills at the grassroots level. I believe that these steps will align our policies with the future needs of Indonesia labor market. Upskilling, again, needed for new force into green sectors, and reskilling for the existing fossil fuel workforce. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also show you a study conducted by Kementerian ISDM in 2025, revealing a significant opportunities. So the way we see the transition energy, not as a threat, but instead of the threat, we're looking at as opportunity. There will be close to 2,000 new occupation that's already have identified as green jobs, meaning that that's good opportunity for us. It's not only about for creating new jobs, but also for creating newly better jobs. And if we look at also data, about 90% of the green jobs will be belong to the power and electricity subsector. And if you look at the RUPTL to 2025-2034, stating that there will be 75% of new power generation will come from renewable energy sources. Ladies and gentlemen, green jobs, if you look at the figure, they will, according to Ministry of ESDM estimation, green jobs in the energy sector will reach about 2-point-something million by 2029, meaning that there will be 6 times more compared to 2022. Here the projection, and again, I by myself looking at this figure as opportunity for us to come up to create not only better jobs, but also how we can solve the current issue regarding with the unemployment in Indonesia. Next, so there will be 4 key challenges of building green jobs and skills. Looking at what we have, what we are facing now in Indonesia. Indonesia is a big country, and at least there are 4 issues that we need to solve. The first one, currently there is mismatch between industry needs and vocational training curriculum, especially if you're talking about the green jobs, and lack of relevant certification schemes, SKKNI, especially in focus with green jobs. So the first challenge is aligning vocational training curriculum with the program of energy transition. The second, if you look at the disparity, what we have in Java compared to Kalimantan and Sulawesi, most of renewable energy potential lies outside Java Island, and this will be the significant issue for us. In addition, there is also limited access to upskilling and reskilling opportunities. Most vocational training centers, most of good universities, most are concentrated in Java. So there is also homework for us in building green job and skill related to the issue of solving regional disparities. The third challenge related to facilities and infrastructures, and we're talking about the vocational training centers. Some training facilities and infrastructure are outdated, distributed across the country, and also instructors often lack direct industry experience and exposure to green technology. Green technology will be a new things for them. So that, therefore, there will be also a need for training of trainer for them. And currently, we have about thousands of instructors belong to our vocational training centers across Indonesia. And the last challenge, building green jobs and skills related to how the issue of green transition can be incorporated into productivity. Increasing productivity in industry demands for green jobs. Current productivity initiatives in industry, unfortunately, are not yet driving significant demand for green jobs. But the good news thing, currently we have a collaboration with ASEAN Productivity Organization, and we currently are directed as green productivity specialists leader, in which Indonesia can develop the scheme and also can have training for productivity specialists. And currently we are developing unique framework how we can compute, how we can come up with the dashboard calculator and framework for green productivity. Ladies and gentlemen, addressing these gaps requires cross-sectors collaboration and also requires comprehensive roadmap, at least for the next 5 years. Through our jobs and skill accelerators, and I believe that Ibu Sinta will talk about this, we will bring together government, business, labor unions, academia, and industrial partners to make the green jobs roadmaps to be reality. And at the same time, mobilizing investment and innovation seems to be crucial, and this will be our homework to make green transition will be successful in Indonesia. Next, ladies and gentlemen, about few months ago in ministerial manpowers meeting in ILO and the BRICS, we are proposing at least there should be 4 principles that need to be considered in energy transition. The first one, what I call as people-centered approach, meaning that the transition to green economy must protect workers' dignity, right, and livelihood. Climate policies must integrate labor protection, ensuring safety and fairer working conditions, especially in informal and high-risk sectors. The second principle is inclusive skill development. A just transition is only possible when people participate meaningfully. Investment in inclusive and adaptive vocational training, ensuring that no one is left behind in the shift toward green industries. The second, and the third, social protection and dialogue, strengthening social protection and reskilling support is important to help workers adapt while promoting tripartite and community-level dialogue to ensure transparency, trust, and shared ownership. And last but not the least, policy coherence and collaboration. A just transition must align with climate, labor, energy, and fiscal policies. And I believe that what we are doing now, Indonesia welcome international cooperation and share learning to make the green transition both comprehensive and inclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we make the green transition not only sustainable, but also fair for all Indonesians. And we will make sure that no one left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, here, let me share you a brief what we are doing now. I call it transformation of vocational training centers of our BLK, Balai Latihan Kerja, for a green and just transition. This is the example of our vocational training centers. Total, we have about 34 national training centers across the country under management of our ministry. And also we have about close to 300 regional training centers and more than 4,000 something community-based training centers. And I believe that this modality is more than enough if we want to have the program for reskilling and upskilling to be massive. So the transformation goal, the first one, upskilling, green start, preparing new and existing workers to meet evolving skills demand in green and energy transition industry. And the second, reskilling, green shift, supporting displaced workers from the high carbon sectors to ensure inclusion and just transition. And in these transformation goals should be supported by engagement and collaboration with industry, university, and international organization. So what we are thinking now, we need to focus for our transformation. For the short term to mid-term, Ministry of Manpower will focus the effort, at least for solar panel, wind turbine, and battery storage, in installing, operating, and maintaining at least this skill that we think that's what we need to focus in the next coming year for reskilling and upskilling. Ladies and gentlemen, so I think that that's all, and let me finish my speech at least with the 3 conclusions. The first one, Indonesia is entering a decisive phase of its green transition, and the workforce must be ready to meet it. Over the next 5 years, we see this as opportunity. There will be number of green jobs in energy sectors with the projection as much as 6 times. Second, Ministry of Manpower is transforming vocational training centers under our ministry, regional or community, in responding the challenge in upskilling the new green workforce and reskilling workers from the fossil-based industries to ensure a just and inclusive transition. Last but not the least, the Ministry of Manpower are welcoming any collaboration with industry, universities, and international organizations with all partners who want to share the commitment in building a skilled, future-ready workforce for Indonesia's green economy. And let me finish my speech. The green transition is not just an environmental agenda, it is an opportunity to create better jobs, to create jobs and to create better jobs, opportunity for stronger communities, and opportunity for a more inclusive future for Indonesia. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Pak Yasserli, inviting you to sit. Oops. Thank you, Pak Yasserli, you mentioned the last one is the partnership and collaboration and welcoming kind of international, local, private also, in here. With that, actually, I would like to ask Ms. Tarini Fernando, who's here representing the World Economic Forum Center for New Economy and Society, right, Tarini? And you're working with Bapanas, with the two co-chair here, Ibu Shinta and Pak Anin, on Indonesia Jobs and Skills Accelerator. Can you share a bit more about the Center for New Economy and Society and the Accelerator?
Thank you so much, Philia. It's a real honor to be here today. And I first want to begin by thanking all of our co-chairs, our esteemed co-chairs, for the leadership that you're taking with this Indonesia Jobs and Skills Accelerator. And of course, Bapanas, the incredible role that you play as the local secretariat. So for those of you who might not know, allow me to maybe briefly start with a quick introduction of the World Economic Forum. We are an international platform for public-private collaboration. And our mission is really to provide a trusted platform for insights and dialogue that can ultimately lead to concrete actions on shared opportunities and challenges. And our Center for New Economy and Society focuses on 3 pillars: economic growth, human capital development, as well as promoting equity and inclusion. And specifically on this 3rd pillar, we have been really focused on the green economy and ensuring that the transition is driving economic opportunity for all. Across each of these pillars, we have specific country-level accelerators, and this is all about looking at what are the specific initiatives that might be there at a local context that are supporting jobs and skills, for example, as the Honorable Minister has just shared. And Indonesia is we're really delighted to welcome Indonesia to this network of over 36 economies that we work with, but Indonesia is one of the very first to actually focus on equitable transition. And over the course of today, we have really heard about all of the efforts, the ambition to not only drive economic growth, but equally to ensure that economic growth goes hand in hand with a carbon neutral future. And central to that is actually delivering on jobs and skills. So this accelerator is really focused on leveraging what is already there, the ambitions that have been set in the Green Jobs and Skills Roadmap, and combining that with some of the insights, the benchmarking tools, and the leadership communities that we host at the World Economic Forum Center for New Economy and Society to address and really make sure that there are 3 key objectives that this accelerator delivers on. A really robust talent pipeline for green growth, ensuring that actually green jobs correct for existing labor market divides when it comes to ensuring that women have access, the informal economy has access, that those with disabilities have also access to the economic opportunity of green jobs. And finally, as we have heard again today, making sure the transition and this accelerator also addresses and supports the country in addressing some of the social risks. So the real goal for today is to hear from our honored co-chairs, and we just want to, on behalf of the World Economic Forum, extend our sincere thanks to McKinsey as a knowledge partner and to our co-chairs for taking on this role. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarini. Yeah. With that, as you said, we want to hear from the co-chairs who are both in here, Ibu Shinta and Pak Anin, right? Ibu Shinta, since the time of B20, I think you've already mentioned sustainable inclusive growth, right? And Pak Yasserli, you also said no one left behind, right? You know, could you share more, Ibu Shinta, about how do you think this could lead into an inclusive workforce transition going forward? Talking about SME workers, informal workers, women, disabilities, you know. What's your thoughts going forward? How could private sector contribute to this reskilling?
Yes. Thank you, Philia. So I think when we talk about the green jobs, we have to look at the two aspects, right? One is from the industry and one is from the SME side. So as we understand now about Indonesia, obviously we need also to create more quality SMEs that can actually grow, right? And while we have now ability of jobs, with the kind of supply of jobs that now needed more on the green side as well, we need to look at both sides at the same time. So first of all, if we look at from the industry, we need to map which sectors and that can really, that are, so we look at from the demand side, which sectors that are needed on more on the green, this what we call the green jobs. So this is while WEF and Bappenas are now launching what we call the skill hub accelerators. Actually, we are also focusing on the green workforce accelerators itself. And when we map the industry, the best way, because we are both, I think we are both very action-oriented, right? So we map immediately the sectors that we believe are important. So I think energy is definitely one of it. But when we go to the industrial estate, of course, the manufacturing industry, they are looking also some of the transition towards the green jobs. And when we look at also farming, for example, I think agriculture is a big sector that we also need to look at. So from the industry side, we are looking on which sectors are really requiring. And then obviously when we look at the focusing on the green job accelerators itself, we can see that there are a number of things that needs to be focused, for example, on the company side. Right, the minister mentioned about converting some of the BLK into skill. I think that working together with the private sectors, with business, it clearly, you know, we can scale this up much faster. In which we also have some industrial estate that have. That can produce also skill hubs to be able to deliver this. So what is important is, of course, the curriculum, right? How are we going to actually provide this kind of curriculum? And on the other side, we also need to incentivize the companies as well. So this is something that we're looking from the government side, is how government can also incentivize company to fast track this transition towards the green job. So we've been working on that on the policy and the regulatory aspect as well, but incentivizing is also important. On the SME development, I think clearly a lot of SMEs are also looking on the green transition. Why? Because they are also part of the supply chain of the big companies. So I think we need to specifically work with how SME can also be part of this whole decarbonization effort, but also provide the green jobs that necessary so that they can also be part of this whole big scheme of the green transition. So I think these two parts is very important, and I think we from the business side, we're ready with very concrete elements such as, how to formulate the model from the curriculum, from the incentive side, and how to deliver it actually toward the workforce. We work with the labor unions. I think it's important because from the existing job, we also need to reskill and upskill them. So besides of new jobs that's coming from the from the universities, but we also need to look at how the existing jobs can be upskilled and reskilled. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Sinta. Very much aligned. I think the latest paper, the McKinsey Global Institute Word for Indonesia, titled Enterprising Archipelago. So Bu Sinta said quality SME needs to grow 2.5 to 3 times, and Bu Sinta said that means it's aligning with the sector that is growing, and one of them is actually the green opportunity, right? Now, Bu Sinta already alluded to that, Pak Anin, about the need for public-private partnership. Pak Yasserli said, BLK, the problem is the person who teach probably don't have the experience, right? And therefore kind of hinting towards the need for public-private partnership. So Pak Anin, could you share more about this topic, right? And probably also your hope, Pak Anin, in spite of all your busy schedule, why are you also co-chairing the accelerator? What would you hope the accelerator to accomplish?
Thank you. I think after Ibu Shinta spoke as co-chair, and of course after Pak Menteri, I think my job is just to help to connect the dots. Yeah. And thank you for World Economic Forum for moving forward with this initiative. I've known World Economic Forum for quite some time. I'm also involved in the Net Zero Industrial Park, among others. But let me come back to where Kadin, which is Indonesian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, can and is playing a big role. We're basically the manifestation of Indonesia Inc., which is essentially how to connect between the government as well as the private sector. Now, quickly before I get to the green jobs and skills, we look at the whole GDP of Indonesia, let's say 1.5 trillion US dollars, about 15% of it is coming from the state budget. The 85% is actually coming from the business sector, including state-owned enterprises, but also private enterprises, and most of them actually small, medium enterprises, including micro as well as cooperatives. So our job is to make sure that when we talk about growth, they are also inclusive to a lot of them, not just because we want to, but we have to, because micro constitute to about 60% of it, right? Now, when we talk about the green industrializations, initiatives, jobs and skills, I'm gonna tag along to Ibu Shinta's categorization, right? On the corporate side, we see a lot of innovations, breakthroughs that we're talking about in the last 1.5 days. And by the way, this is a very good initiative that I think this is the Davos of Indonesia with focus on sustainability. What do I mean by that? Look, a lot of people are talking about how to process critical minerals. And like what Pak Menteri is talking about, this will bring a lot of growth to the eastern part of Indonesia, which we haven't seen before, the processing of critical minerals. And then when we talk above the ground, we talk about the renewable energy potential. We have heard about it, that 75 gigawatt in the next 15 years is going to come from renewable energy. And we see a lot of partners with technology, money, knowledge that want to tag along with it. And then don't forget that the biodiversity, not only we want to protect them because it is livelihood, we are even forced to make giant seawall because of the rising sea level. You can imagine when we say about livelihood of Indonesia. But anyway, what I'm trying to say, there are a lot of jobs. I'm glad Pak Menteri is talking about, for example, 1 million or so a year to do this. This is great because we need 2.5 to 3 million jobs per year to keep up with our 5% growth, let alone later on when we try to hit the 8%. Now, the small and medium enterprises, they should also really be motivated and be included in the process. Let me just give you 2 quick examples, right? First, the government is really much pushing about the free nutritious meal. This is talking about 30,000 kitchens across Indonesia that are trying to give 80 million food to Indonesian students as well as lactating mothers, right? Now, along with this, there's a huge supply chain that you have to think about. 80 million eggs, 80 million drumsticks. You have a lot of protein, vegetables. And you can think about how do we decarbonize as we're making this new supply chain. So that's one example how to move this micro and SME to be a part of the whole movement, but at the same time, making sure that we think about green from day one. The second thing is about, for example, the 3 million per year housing, right? Now, each house is about 36 meters square. They probably will involve 46 vendors, right? How do we become green on day one as we are trying to fulfill the demand for affordable housing? So these are the couple of things that we can work with the government to support, not only for the employment point of view from the corporate, but also small, medium enterprises. But all in all, we're all but excited. So then when we talk about Kadin as the manifestation of Indonesia Inc., maybe we can make green Indonesia Inc., because we believe that probably that's the way to go in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Anin. Green Indonesia Inc. ya, Pak ya. That's the hope. Pak Maliki, if I can go to you. Bappenas is the secretariat, right, of this Indonesia Jobs and Skills Accelerator. What is your hope, Pak, for the secretariat? If we meet again in ISF in 1 year from now, 3 years from now, what's the hope, Pak Maliki?
Okay, thank you, Bu Filia. First of all, I would like to appreciate for distinguished Minister Pak Yassi Ali as a co-chair, and then also Pak Anin as a Kadin, as well as Bu Sinta from Apindo for co-chair for this forum, what we call is a Jobs and Skills Accelerators that is supported by WEF. And we see that Bappenas here as a secretariat, we see that this forums is going to be a leverage for us on how we can improve the competitiveness for the energy transitions. So therefore, we can build a green talent here to expand some of the new available jobs later on for the energy transitions, as well as how we can actually expand these jobs for the vulnerable people, especially for the women and informal workers and the small, medium enterprises. How we do it? We actually translating that we already issued the Green Jobs Roadmap. By translating, I remember, Pak Menteri, that you actually asked what's next from the green jobs. Because the next one is, I would like to see how we can translate the roadmap into like more coordinated as well as the concrete actions. So then we actually can like translate all the collaborations from all the stakeholders, so then we can improve the competitiveness of the labor force. And then these accelerators also would like to serve as the complement, because we also have the national platform for the TFET Reform Transformations Committee. So therefore, we can learn each other, we can collaborate, because we are specifically going to have the improvement of the green jobs, while the TFET accelerators, TFET the reform is going to have like a very large framework of the skill accelerators. Therefore, I guess what we are going to see from the Secretariat is we need to have some tools on how we can also use this leverage. Maybe we can have several activities such as the series of dialogue, and then also job analysis, and then how we can match between the industries' demands as well as the skills of the workers itself. So in the future, I see that we can have like a pilot modeling that can like expand it into the national scopes. So then, therefore, we can have like more competitiveness in the green jobs. That's all.
Thank you, Pak Maliki. Because the time is quite short, gonna conclude the conversation that we have, right? Maybe iterating, Pa Yasserli, you mentioned that basically the narrative about the green transition is actually a productivity and growth opportunity for us, for our people as well, right? Now, in order for it to be a sustainable growth and sustainable productivity engine for the country, it needs to be just, to borrow what you said, right? That means it has to be people-centered, it has to be inclusive, social protection, and the policy needs to support all of that, right? Now, in order to make it just, it needs to be, it takes a village, right? It needs to be a collaboration among all the party, right? In this case, of course, from the public, in terms of policy, Bu Shinta, you mentioned incentive, right? For the private sector, I think, Pa Anin, Bu Shinta, you mentioned that, right? When we talk about business, then sector focus for growth, the private sector knows that, right? Want to underline as well the need for the SME to be better quality SME, and therefore also needs the private sector to actually bring it all together, right, to grow. By the way, there is also homework for our large companies that could be much bigger than where we are in order to pursue the growth, and that's where the green opportunity is an opportunity. I'd like to just add one more actor, public, private, but also philanthropy. So because I also saw some of the speakers coming from philanthropic entities, right? Because where things are not economical, that's probably where it could be bridged, right? And last but not least, Pak Maliki, right? The Indonesia Job Skills and Accelerator, basically what you hope for is a platform to catalyze, right? The good practices, to pilot, not only pilot, we don't want to have more pilot than airlines, right? But, we want pilot that gets to scale, right? Therefore, it's not only catalyst, but also to ensure delivery happen, to ensure focus. Because sometimes the challenge, because we have so many things, right, is to maintain focus so that we can get to scale. That probably concludes our panel today. Thank you very much, the distinguished panel. Pak Menteri Yasserli, Pak Anin, Bu Shinta, Pak Maliki, Ms. Tarini, thank you so much. Have a good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to moderate this panel.
Thank you very much. Let's give a big round of applause. Thank you, Ms. Philia Wibo, for leading that fireside chat, and also the Minister of Manpower. Thank you for the keynote speech. And would like to invite everyone, before you leave the stage, for a group photo. Let's have picture together. Yes. Once again, we thank everyone. We thank the Minister, also the speakers on this fireside chat. Thank you very much for your contribution and presence here at the forum. Ladies and gentlemen, we almost come to the very end, but not yet. We have done a lot of panels, keynote speeches that are very eye-opening and also intriguing as well. A lot of fresh perspectives. And we want to make sure that everyone remembers all the key takeaways, so that maybe next year when we meet again, we make sure that we have made progresses from any points that we discussed this year at IISF 2025. And before we do that, would like to say thank you to the Minister of Manpower of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Yasserli, for attending and also sharing his perspectives as well as roadmap from the ministry in this forum this year. Thank you very much. Once again, we would like to ask everyone to please stay put, because we still have one more agenda before we close and wrap up this Indonesia International Sustainability Forum this year. And now, ladies and gentlemen, We now come to the closing remarks session. So please welcome with a round of applause Deputy Minister for Investment, Promotion, Ministry of Investment and Downstream Industry of Indonesia, Mr. Nurul Ikhwan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang kami hormati Bapak Ketua Umum Kadin Indonesia, Bapak Anindya Bakri. Yang kami hormati Ketua Panitia Pelaksanaan Indonesia International Sustainability Forum, Bapak Rahmat Kaimuddin. Yang kami hormati Wakil Ketua, ya, kami berdua nih join Bu Sinta dan saya sama-sama Wakil Ketua karena kolega saya harus menyampaikan rasa hormat juga kepada Ibu Sinta Kamdani dan juga Bapak Ibu hadirin yang berbahagia. Syukur Alhamdulillah akhirnya kita sampai juga di penghujung kegiatan Indonesia Sustainability Forum 2025 yang sudah kita laksanakan selama 2 hari ini. Ini masih ada orang asingnya nggak? Kalau ada orang asing pakai bahasa Inggris nih. Oh masih ada, harus dalam bahasa Inggris, Bu Sinta. Alright, so thanks God that we have already passed these 2 days of our event, and this event is very meaningful. Why? Because we know that from this event we could show a very good collaborations among 4 institutions, which are the Ministry of Investment and Downstream Industry (BKPM), Coordinating Ministry for Infrastructure and Regional Development, the Indonesian Chambers of Commerce and Industry (Kadin), and McKinsey as our valued knowledge partners. And for these 2 days, we have seen grateful for the cross-sectoral synergy that ensures this forum was comprehensive, action-oriented, and attract over 10,000 participants, including 129 expert speakers from both domestic and international field. The third year of this ISF, carrying name Investing for a Resilient, Sustainable and Prosperous World, is tangible manifestations of Indonesia's strong commitment to becoming a regional leader and an attractive contributor to the global sustainability agenda. As Bapak Presiden visions through Astacita, sustainability is no longer an option, but the foundations for achieving the Global Indonesia 2045 vision, which targets high, inclusive, and competitive economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to report that the forum successfully, this is a very, very good number of achievement as the output of this event, we successfully mobilized of total 18 MOUs and commitment of investment, and also a letter of intent, which values around 278.33 trillion rupiahs, which is equals to 17.4 billion US dollars. The key highlights include development of waste-to-energy facilities in 33 cities valued of 90 trillion rupiahs, or approximately 5.4 billion US dollars. Other strategic MOUs cover bio-based packaging, geothermal power, green hydrogen, and maritime decarbonization. Additionally, infrastructure projects with the International Finance Corporations, or IFC, ASEAN Development Bank, or ADB, and Indonesia-Australia Partnerships of Infrastructure, or KIAT, are valued at up to 11 billion rupiahs. The today's discussions at ISF 2025 reinforce the belief that Indonesia has unique foundation to achieve the ambitious visions of an achievement of the goal of Indonesia Golden 2045 visions. Indonesia is abundant resources at the global strategic advantage. That's the first unique Indonesia.
So we have downstream industry program is being expanded from nickel, where Indonesia controls around 43% globally, to new strategic commodities like copper, bauxite, seaweed, to boost export value and competitiveness. Indonesia holds the key to global climate solutions with a carbon capture and storage, or CCS, potentially having not less than 577 gigaton, one of the largest in the world, capable to storing domestic and regional emissions for up to 200 years, firmly establishing Indonesia as the CCS hub for Asia. In energy, water, and human capital, energy resilience, Indonesia possesses a massive renewable energy, or RE, potentially of nearly 3,700 gigawatt, and the 2025 to 2034 electricity supply business plan, or RUPTL, targets an additional capacity of 69.5 gigawatt, of which 61% to 75% will come from renewable energy and storage. Water resilience, a crucial target is achieving universal pipe clean water access in all urban areas by 2045. For the human capital, accelerating these transitions is supported by super tax deductions of up to 300% for the research and development and 200% for training activities focused on engineering data and green finance expertise. Ladies and gentlemen, the investment commitment of totaling 278.33 trillion rupiahs, or 17.4 billion US dollars, confirm the confidence of global partners in Indonesia's green transition. We are now moving decisively into the critical execution phase. These transitions requires focused attention on high-impact strategy areas where the cabinet is ready to implement systemic and coordinating solutions to rapidly realize these projects and fully unlock the potentials of our Golden Indonesia Visions 2045. Indonesian government is continuously working to improve its regulatory framework. We are strengthening legal certainty investment procedures by implementing the positive fictitious principles based on service level agreement, or SLA, among ministries. We are also improving the risk-based online single submissions, or OSS, system that investment licensing by further integrating systems in different ministries. Ladies and gentlemen, ISF 2025 represent a critical moment for executions. The first, we must enable. This means finalizing the technical and financial studies needed to get your projects approved. We have put the incentives and regulatory models in place, and now it's time to turn our visions into reality. Next, we must establish and build new partnerships, especially for cross-border cooperations. And last but not least, the third, we must empower human resources development, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and cooperatives to have an impact on our society. Ladies and gentlemen, let's work together to finalize the commitment that will secure our shared sustainability futures. Again, we extend our heartfelt appreciations to all who have contributed to the success of ISF 2025, especially for the sponsors and also for the committee and for all participants, especially those who came to our event for these 2 days. So we do hope that we could see you again in our ISF 2025. See you next year. Invest in green, invest in our future. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Nurul Ikhwan, for that closing remarks. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the very end of Indonesia International Sustainability Forum 2025. We extend our deepest thanks. We extend our deepest appreciation to all speakers, all partners, sponsors who have participated and contributed to the success of this two-day forum. And for those of you who have come from far away from Indonesia, from Jakarta, we do hope that you have a safe travel back home. Finally, thank you very much, and we hope to see you again in ISF 2026. Have a great evening. My name is Rahma Alia. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye. Just before we leave the room, all committees, please come forward for a picture together.